All right, so we're doing the radio show or questions and answers, whatever you want to call it, with Josh from Vague Industries.
Yep.
And I mean, people have a bunch of questions, but I was going to ask some first. And I was going to say, basically, like, well, I don't even know what you do. I mean, like, I know you travel around and
yeah,
and you do crazy things, but I don't know what it is that you offer to people.
Yeah, so it's pretty vague. Hence the name Vague Industries. We're out of Dublin, New Hampshire.
Okay.
And I specialize in chassis and suspension.
Oh, okay.
So we manufacture laser cut CNC bent chassis, and we make axle housings, wheels. We're now in the process of manufacturing our own coilover shocks.
Dang. Lots of stuff then.
Lots of stuff.
Like Art Morrison, basically. Like
sort of, but
they
for
do
the
chassis
off-road
stuff
world.
too. Yeah, but you all off-road. Okay.
Yeah, it's mostly off-road, endurance off-road race cars, and something we've done a lot of is something called Pro Mega Trucks. It's basically,
I heard about him. I actually tuned to one.
Okay.
There's a guy in New Jersey that has.
Yes.
I'm like, oh,
The
what do
TNT
you call this?
monster truck guy.
He's like a mega truck. I just never had heard of them prior.
Yeah.
It has turbo LS in it. Imagine that.
Yep. So they're just, it's basically a monster truck that's a little bit lighter, narrower tires. They're still 50 inches tall. They got 1,500 horse or so. 1,000 to 1,800 is sort of average for Pro Mega Truck, and then they've got 20 to 26 inches of wheel travel, and we'll hit 150 foot jumps in them and tumble. And
Wow. That's got to be tough then.
yeah, so we do a lot of that.
Huh. So it's almost okay. Cool. Wheels and everything. Also, all essentially off-road stuff.
Well, primarily off-road stuff. So like most of what I do is full-wheel drive, whether it's rock crawlers or endurance off-road racing, like Ultra 4, King of the Hammer style stuff.
Oh, okay.
And then the Pro Mega Truck stuff. The two-wheel drive stuff just sort of happens by accident because we have like a bunch of leftover parts, and it's really cheap and easy to build a two-wheel drive thing compared to a four-wheel drive.
So why not?
So why not? Yeah. And another thing we've been getting into lately is we've been starting to do a lot of television type stuff.
Huh.
Like personal branding, and like we got our own show on Amazon Prime.
Huh.
Hasn't been published yet, but it's coming.
It's coming.
Yeah. We partnered
I
up.
see they're doing a lot of that stuff lately. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, we partnered up with Busted Knuckle Films, which is a large YouTube
I've heard of him
channel.
too. Off-road stuff.
Yeah, so he's, what was he, 350 million viewer channel, like large.
Wow.
Big.
Wow.
Yeah, so we partnered up with him, and we're doing a show called Death Wish for good reason. Yeah, and then we did a thing with Motor Trend and Discovery called the 3K Hoopty Challenge, which was on Facebook.
Oh,
Watch.
yeah. I did see that, yeah.
Yeah, so that was $3,000 hoopties drag racing head-to-head elimination format.
They gave me someone else's drink, sorry. I just realized it's not at all what I ordered, but it tastes okay, so I'm okay. I just looked at it now, and it's like a cappuccino with extra sugar, and I'm like, oh, I just got coffee, so anyway.
That's super funny.
No, but so are you planning on doing more of that, or a couple a year, or it's all open?
Yeah, so I'm really moving heavy down like I don't even know what you want to call it, like television influencer, personal branding.
Oh, okay. Like a much less douchey Richard Rawlins?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, my faded pants are real. Yeah, exactly that. And
because that's we all know he has no real skills. He's just an influencer. Not to say that you have no skills.
Yeah.
But that's primarily like he's like, oh, we should do a thing, and people just do it
he's
because
good at business though. Like in the end of the day, he's a great marketer.
For sure.
Great businessman.
I'd love to meet that guy. There's plenty of people that they get portrayed. Obviously,
Yep.
I'm sure it makes him money and views. He doesn't care.
Yeah.
What he does.
Clearly.
He doesn't care. Like he's living the life too. So there's a whole thing behind that. But yeah, people are always obviously different than they are. But yeah.
By the way, flip this.
To close it or what?
No, I wanted to flip them up. Can I? It's gonna help lighting up.
Oh yeah, the thing's busted. Yeah, I was gonna flip it the other way, but
I'm just looking out for you, bud.
yeah, it'll be easier. They're putting like new scoops on the thing out there. Skid steer. Luckily, they hadn't made noise at all until now. Oh yeah, looks good. Okay. Oh, so that's awesome. Yeah, I didn't know any of that off-road chassis and stuff like that. What else? So yeah, so do you work with like networks primarily right now, or are you not able to say till it all happens, or?
So we just did something with Netflix that I can't say really anything about except for that. Then we've got our own thing going, which is working with Busted Knuckle, which is a YouTube thing, and then our own thing that hasn't been published quite yet on Amazon. So that's kind of the road we're going down. Like, I built this little pickup truck that I've got here outside, sort of as a middle finger to a bad client. And like, I had started building a really nice version of that truck, like full tube chassis, TR6060, like sweet.
Sweet.
Yeah, relationship with the client went sour, and he owes a bunch of money and did a bunch
not to pay it or want the truck or anything else.
Yeah,
so.
Well, stole the truck, still owes money, and did a bunch of shit talking.
Nice, wonderful.
Yeah, so when I was driving my current truck from Phoenix to New Hampshire, it was supposed to just be like a quick boogie trip back that took 3 months, 3 motors, and in the middle of it, I said, I have a really good opportunity here to build that same truck and drive it across the country before the bad client even starts finishing his, and it'd just be the ultimate middle finger.
Ah, okay, yeah.
So
I would do similar. So yeah, I identify with that.
Yeah, and
they're like, oh, I'll just finish it because you guys can't, and you're like, well,
yeah. So exactly.
Yes.
And then nobody could finish it, and then I actually ended up with it again. So now it's mine, and I'm gonna finish it with a diesel.
The prior client's truck.
Yeah,
not the Datsun outside.
Not the one outside. Okay. Yeah, so that one got finished as the middle finger.
It's another Datsun though.
It's a Toyota pickup.
Oh, Toyota
Hilux.
Okay,
I forgive you.
I don't know why people. You know why I said that? People always say the guy with the Datsun, and I'm like, I don't know. Is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, you've written Hilux on everything, so yeah.
So now we've acquired the original one. That we intend to finish with a Power Stroke.
Like a newer one or an older one, or 7.3 for life?
7.3.
So yeah, you can get all the torch carriers. 7.3 lives on.
But this truck, should I go into the story?
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
Yeah.
So this truck, my buddy Doug and I had been trying to buy for like a couple of years. We found it abandoned in the desert of Phoenix for 15 years.
The one that's outside.
The one that's currently outside, yeah. And my buddy Doug called me while I was in Vegas for the Mint 400, which was a 400-mile desert race. I was there to shock tune a couple of desert cars. And he called me up and he says, hey man, remember that truck in Phoenix? I finally got it for $250. It's ours. Well, so I abandoned the race team in favor of this abandoned truck. And I tried to drive it in stock form from New Hampshire from Phoenix all the way to New Hampshire, and I made it to Flagstaff.
What did it have in it? How old is it?
It's a 77.
Oh, so it's not like a 22RE or anything.
It was a 20R.
A 20R.
Yep.
Similar thing, but just old school.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So I made it to Flagstaff, which is like 2 hours away, and it started making noise, and then I realized that the gasoline that was in the system turned back into dinosaurs, like this primordial goop that just oozed off of your hands.
Wonderful.
And so the whole fuel system was wrecked from sitting in the desert, and then the oil was never changed.
Huh.
So now I'm driving on this ancient oil. I'm like, okay, well maybe just needs a valve adjustment.
Maybe it just needs to get mixed up.
Yeah.
Just keep spinning the crank and that oil will freshen up.
Yeah, but all the weather stripping's dry rotted and the windows are rattling and shaking.
That's the worst thing about a Fairmont when you pick it up. There's all the weather stripping and the felt things in the door. They're all
they're
gone.
plastic and
They're gone. So the fucking windows are like.
Yep.
They sound like they're gonna shatter. That's so annoying. But yeah, anyway.
Exactly this.
It's
so
awful.
You know, and then the dry rotted tires and it's shaking and it only does 55. So when I left, my buddy Doug gave me a toolkit. Now he has this beautiful motorhome and like he's got no real need for tools immediately. And he's got like this full toolkit, everything you need. And he's like picking through and he's like finds the rusty stripped out Phillips head and he's like, you can use that and I have 2 of these. And he gives me a Phillips head screwdriver, a pair of rusty vice grips, the tire iron to the truck, and 4 zip ties. That's my toolkit. So
to make it to New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I made it like 2 hours away. I made it to Flagstaff, and I decided that I had checked valve lash because I just thought that that's where I could start to find this noise. And I was able to get into the engine. I found a beer can in the ditch that I just happened to know is 0.0037 thick, so 2 layers is 8 thousandths, 3 layers is 12. That happens to be the warm valve specs for a 20R engine. Yeah. So with a tire iron and vice grips and a beer can, I did a valve adjustment on the side of the road.
Yeah. What did you do about the gas though? Did you dump it out before you started your drive?
The whole thing had to be kind of replaced, like carburetor gone through, all the fuel lines replaced.
So that was, but like 2 hours in that, all that shit happened at once, and you had to do the valve train and the gas. And
so the gas had been done prior to leaving because it wouldn't run. So all that was sort of like it took a week or so to get it running before I could even leave. So I did an oil change in O'Reilly's parking lot, dumped all the oil on the ground, and asked for forgiveness after. And I filled it up with 2050 and a bottle of engine honey. And it like changed the harmonics, but it didn't like go away. So I'm like, I can head back to Phoenix, which is 2 hours, or I can just continue on and see how far I make it, figure it out.
Yeah. So worry about it when it breaks again.
Yeah, so that's what I did. And I slept in the truck in a hotel parking lot so that I could get continental breakfast in the morning.
Nice.
And when I woke up, it was 16 degrees out. Inside of the truck's all frozen. And I'm somewhere east of Albuquerque at this point. And I had figured out earlier that the rattling, the noise, the knocking was actually like a plastic cup in the bottom of the shifter in the transmission.
That was just shot.
Yeah, it was like broken or whatever, so the shifter was rattling, resonating through the drivetrain.
That was the whole thing?
Yeah, so like if I got real annoying, I just grab the shifter, put a load on it, and the noise would go away.
Like a bungee cord on it?
Yeah, so I got like real tired of it at one point, and I just put a load on it, and it didn't go away. One of them went away. Yeah. But the one I was hearing didn't. Huh. So, do the clutch and and it's something inside the motor. And so now I know that like I have to pull over and check this out. But there was a billboard that said Dinosaur Museum in 29 miles. So in 29 miles I pulled over.
Dinosaur Museum.
Yeah, well.
That's still out west?
Yeah, this was in the middle of nowhere. Like way nowhere. I got on Craigslist and like I would have bought something and towed it home, but I was only going to buy something cool. I wasn't going to buy just anything. Like if I could have got a 60s Cadillac or something, but I couldn't. Like
this was a great car to tow with.
Yeah, this was an area of the country where if you searched for Silverado on Craigslist, you got like 2 listings. There was nothing here.
Wow. You would think there would be quite a few trucks, right? But everybody has older ones or something.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal was, but
there was no one lived there.
So
at all.
So I was able to find somebody in Amarillo who had a Toyota Hilux that they were selling, and in the ad it said they had a parts truck. So I called this guy, and he was kind of dry, monotone, hard to read, but he told me that he would sell me the engine out of the parts truck, although he's never heard it run. And I convinced him for a small fee to let me use his facilities to work on my truck.
Yeah, to do this a lot.
Yeah, I didn't know if I was going to swap the engine or if I was going to buy his truck and tow it with mine or whatever. But I knew he had everything I needed if I wanted to go whatever route I wanted to go. So my original plan was he had bought the parts truck for the transmission to 5-speed swap the truck he was selling.
Oh.
So I knew my transmission was good. I had kind of planned on buying his parts truck, putting my transmission in it, and then towing my truck with the parts truck. But I was 120 miles away and I got a wrist pin knock. So I had to idle 120 miles. And I put it in 4th gear and I had to idle with full engine load. So it was for 120 miles at 25 to 30 miles an hour.
I'm sure that was lots of fun.
For a good 80 miles of it, I was on a dirt road to the middle of nowhere. There was no telephone wires. There was no barns, houses, literally nothing. It dropped off at the curvature of the earth. You could drop me in the middle of the ocean, I would have had the same view. I made it to this dude's house at like 9:30 or so. We pull it in, and we ended up swapping the motor out. He stayed up all night with me and swapped in this motor that neither one of us had ever heard run. Like 4:30 or so in the morning, it fired back up. It ran like crap, just like the other one, but it ran.
Got out your beer can, valve adjustment.
Right. It was puke and engine oil at the front main seal, like bad. So I figured, okay, it's going to take me a lot of oil to get home. But every time I checked it, it was more full. So
did it smell like gas or coolant? Or?
I couldn't figure it out. But 600 miles later, when I made it to Houston, it started spitting coolant all over the windshield. And that's when I decided I was going to Crown Vic swap the front.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I got a case of the mine as well syndrome. So the cab came off it, the bed came off it, the rear end came out, the frame got cut in half, and now I'm stuck in Texas living in the fornicatorium. I showered in a rain gutter in a Texas hurricane. And it turned into like this big mess.
Where did you do the swap? Or?
It was in a barn in Texas. I kind of became a local for a little bit. I was in somebody's wedding. It was cool.
So then you obviously, did you use the Crown Vic engine and trans with the same front end? Or?
No, so I used the Crown Vic front end, Crown Vic rear end, but I used the Toyota leaf springs in the rear. And then I was going to put the 20R back in because it's done, it's plumbed, it's wired, it's like everything fits.
All the rest of the front end is waiting for it.
Yeah, so, but I just couldn't justify putting the junk 20R back in.
Yeah, you had 2 that failed in a couple hundred miles.
Yeah, so, because I have one that I've got to fix to put back in. So I ended up with a Mexican sold me a 5.3. It was a low mileage 5.3. Turns out, I found out like a year later, it was actually a high mileage 4.8. So classic.
Yes. I would have been like, yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. So happy.
Yeah.
I was so bummed when my 4.8 was actually a 5.3 punched over. I was so bummed. It ended up being blown up, but I was like, oh man, I'm not going to use this now. I'm on a 5.3.
So this is sort of where the story starts to have magic. Is
after the LS.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it started with this Joe True guy staying up all night doing a stock motor swap, but it started to get rowdy, and this place turned out to be like the spot where everybody comes after work to drink beer and watch you work.
Huh. And, the barn.
Yeah, the barn. There's 4, 5, 6 guys that would come over and drink beer and watch me work.
So strange. It's a very Craigslist back page addy. Looking for someone to watch me work. Smoke cigarettes. It reminds me of that. What's that scene? Yeah, get in there deep. Dodgeball, where they had the car wash.
I don't know.
And the guy's wearing hot pants. And the guy's like, no one's getting their fucking car washed. It's just this guy, and this guy is like a pit bull, and he has this huge gut, and he's picking at his belly button, and just keeps paying Tommy to wash his truck. He washed his truck like 6 times, and they show him, and he's like, get in there deep, boy. Yeah. Anyway,
yeah, it's that.
That's how I envision it.
That's pretty much what it was. So.
Oh, okay. That's my visual. The movie scene.
So now I've got the Crown Vic front end in it. I've got an LS stuck in there with a 4L60. And the tires, the inside of the tires lined up with the outside of the body is super wide.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it looks like a roller skate.
So this is where the body happened.
Yeah, so my buddies were dropping the motor and stuff in, and I ran to go get parts. I came back, it's sitting all nice and low, and I was like, the first truck that we built, the tube chassis one, that was actually slammed, like dropped on its balls, like body dropped, and the lowest we could get the engine with a cut pan, everything, it stuck way out the hood because everything was so low.
Oh, okay.
So I wanted that same look, which meant I had to lift the engine up. And they set it down in there. I'm like, no, lift it up like 4 inches.
Keep
like,
going.
Up.
Keep going.
And they're like, what about the drive shaft? Like, I'll take care of the drive shaft. Don't worry about the drive shaft.
We'll go get a cheap wheelbarrow. It'll all be fine.
U-joints are made to take corners. So, then one of the dudes came over. He's like, this thing's so wide and the motor's out the hood. It's so rowdy. It needs a turbo. I'm like, I'm not putting a turbo on this at this point. It's been months that I've been gone living on the road. Like, no house, like, it's been pretty miserable.
I just need to go home now, please.
Yeah, I have a shop I need to get back to. Like, I have to go back to work. And so the next day, dude shows up with a 70 millimeter on 3 and 69, whatever it was. This used eBay turbo. He says, this with a wastegate, this blow off, an intercooler. He's like, you can have it if you put it on. So like, I can't not. I have to.
Yeah, of course.
And once I left there, within the first 200 miles, I had to stop 35 times to fix or diagnose the truck. So it took days. But in the process, I met some of the best people on the planet. Because my toolkit was pretty limited, which meant I had to rely on the kindness of strangers. Mm-hmm. But
that's your whole story.
that's the whole story, is relying on kindness
at least what
of strangers.
I gather from your frequent posts.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. So that's now turned into a rule that when that truck leaves, because I sent some of my buddies out in it to LS Fest last year.
Oh, okay.
They showed up with their toolboxes and stuff. You guys can't take that. You're not allowed to. I was just being like a dick,
Yeah.
And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, you can't. You have to, only what you can carry in one hand. That's it. And I was just going to push them and see how hard I could push them, but if in the end they wanted to take a big toolbox, whatever, go for it. But then they're like, oh, okay.
And you're like, that was easy.
Yeah, that was easy.
Good luck.
I was like, you have to rely on the kindness of strangers. And the only people who are going to, step up and help somebody in a vehicle like that are awesome.
Enthusiasts.
Cool dudes. And so...
Enthusiast is almost a bad word anymore.
Yeah, right?
So many of them are douches, so we need another word for them.
Yeah.
Like my buddy Chris Ortiz is like, he makes memes and it says like a regular car person, someone who builds cars, and an enthusiast, and it's always like the awful end of the spectrum. Yeah, it's getting there, unfortunately.
Yeah, so everybody who's helped with this truck has signed the B pillar.
Oh, okay.
So like if you helped out of the kindness of your heart and expected nothing in return, that's when you get the sign. If I had to pay you to do it, you were hired. That was, you don't get to sign the truck. But I've hundreds and hundreds of people have signed that truck from all over the country.
Is there any room?
It's getting to be where there's not, which is kind of cool. And there's everybody from like a dude named Lee Plunkett. And the only reason why I remember him is because he's got such a wild name.
I was going to say.
Dude named Lee Plunkett was in a beat-up motorhome at a gas station in South Carolina. And he let me borrow a pair of channel locks to tighten my lawnmower spark plug into the head because the hex was too big to fit down the counterbore. So I used channel locks to tighten by the the tip.
Oh my god, yeah.
Every 100 miles I had to tighten it. But he let me borrow those pliers to tighten it. His name's on the truck. All the way to like Aaron Kaufman, with the shifting gears.
Yeah.
We went into his shop and welded the fenders back on after I blew them apart. So like across the boards,
it's a collection
the whole spectrum. And it has little to do with the truck and more to do with the
people are awesome a lot of times. Yeah.
People are awesome
if you give them opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I did 28,000 miles in that truck last year.
Wow.
24,000 of which were done within 2 months. I went coast to coast like 3-4 times. And that truck has absolutely 0 gauges. No fuel gauge, no oil pressure, nothing. No gauges at all.
Sometimes I tell people that's a better way to fly.
Yeah.
It's less distraction.
Yeah.
And less worries.
No
Because
gauges,
people are
no
always
worries.
like, every now and then I'll have something and people are like, what's that? That thing probably has a really high tranny temperature. And I'm like, well, fucking find out. They're like, why don't you put I don't want to know. Because then I'll be scared of it or I'll be worried. And it hasn't presented an issue, so I'm just not going to worry. It's fantastic.
Yeah. So I got no gauges. I've got no wipers. I've got no heat, no blower motor.
Did you see? I'll interrupt real quick before I forget about this. Sorry. 821 Bravo on YouTube has a LS swapped Ranger that he made 4-wheel drive again. He did the ice studded tires on all 4 wheels and did ice racing.
I didn't see that.
His name's Ryan. He put a motorhome blower 12-volt heater in his car to replace the heater core because where his heater core he's like you know what, it's kind of weird and I'm gonna have to do some weird shit and I don't really want to deal with it, so he's like he bought like a heated blower thing for like a camper.
Yeah.
And it was like $40.
So
he put it in and he's like sweating. He's like, there's no control, it's just on hot. And he hooked it up to, it actually is drawing, it's not even like on the floor, because Canadian guys were like, we do this all the time in our beaters. Because the heater core will blow up, they'll loop the hose and like throw it on the floor so it doesn't set anything on fire, but it blows like 120 degree air.
So I bought a truck stop one to try to defrost my window, and it defrosts a spot this big.
Yeah.
Like,
so that's why he hooked his actually. Where his firewall is, he made a box where it gets fresh air into the blower, and then it blows into his HVAC box. So he can like dial it and change it from floor to vent, or like he can blow it on him or the windshield or whatever. And he said primarily that's what it's for, is because he's jumping in and out and fogging the whole thing up. But he took a temp gun and it's blowing like 120 degree air out of the vents.
That's crazy.
I'm like, holy shit, that's awesome. I'm gonna do that in beaters so I don't have to hook up 30-year-old heater cores that explode.
Yeah. So like part of my problem with not having gauges and stuff is that, you know, with my shop and my business, we generally do very high quality work.
Yes.
And I don't like to do something half-ass. I'd rather not do it at all.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't have a heater box.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I don't have gauges. Because
you want to overdo it if you start.
Yeah, that, and like I don't want to underdo it. I don't want to just slap something in there to get it in.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do it nicely. Like, you know, we're going to be 3D printing a dash for it, and so like it's going to be nice at some point. But until then, I don't want the in between.
No distractions.
Because if it's in between, it'll stay that way for its entire life.
Yeah.
So we recently just 3D scanned the whole truck.
I saw when you were doing that. Yeah.
Yep. And we are going to draw a new wide body. We're going to CNC machine molds. And then I've got a company out of Maine that's going to be sponsoring a carbon fiber wide body. So it's actually going to... I never wanted it rusty.
Yeah.
Ever. I hate rust. My biggest pet peeve.
Yeah.
It was nice, clean metal. And then Discovery Channel said, hey, we want you out in Tucson. You got 10 days. I'm like, the night before I had to leave, the cab was off it. The roof was cut off it. I was in 1,000 pieces. You know, we put it in drive that morning. We were supposed to leave. No transmission. So, like, it just turned into this mess where we went out to Hoonigan. I smashed it against the shipping containers.
I did see the Hoonigan video. That was the first time I saw it.
Yeah. So we pretty much wrecked it. And like I said before, if it's not to the highest level, I don't really want to do
You
it.
just wrote off the kit at that point.
I just wrote it off. I'm like, whatever.
So you just let it rust and everything else.
Yep, I gave up. But the truck is kind of retarded fast now. That sort of happened by accident, out of necessity. I never wanted it to be as quick as it is.
It's just supposed to be fun.
It was supposed to be fun.
Well, I mean, I saw when it was like on Hoonigan and it was just non-intercooled and you're like, it runs low boost and everything else. Because they're like a turbo and a V8, you probably make 1,000 horsepower. And you're like,
no. 5 pounds and 100 shot of nitrous to keep it cold.
It's not really anything crazy at all. And they're like, yeah, right, turbo nitrogen. And you're like, no, really, no.
Right.
I'm not understating. It's not a joke. It's not being clever. What I'm telling you is it's conservative.
Yeah, it
for
drives.
looks. It's for fun.
That motor made it 24,000 miles. And I beat the hell out of it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you couldn't do that on 850 wheel or something. On that setup. I mean, you can't.
Well, we're going to find out soon.
Yeah. the probability starts to change.
So in a year and a half, I've had 11 transmissions and like 8 or 9 motors in it. A couple of the motors, I did one trip. I did a 4,000 mile trip a couple months ago. We went from New Hampshire down Gulf Shores of Alabama, like south of Orlando, and then looped back up. And the day before I left, I did 3 motor swaps in it.
Huh.
Because they blew up on the jack stands.
Jesus.
Oiling problems. Like, couldn't get it to prime, and no gauges.
Nothing related to the other engines, though.
No.
Yeah.
No. They just one after another.
Yeah.
And what we found out...
I mean, it's almost a good thing, because like what I always say to people, if it's going to have a problem, it's going to have a problem. Because they're always like, I can't believe you don't clean room and all that bullshit and clean hands and parts, and I'm like crushing stink bugs and impacting shit. And I'm like, here, all I've learned is if it's going to work, it's going to work. Like,
right.
And what you don't want to do is limp and prolong a serious issue anyway.
Right.
So just, if it's going to go, like people are like, oh, I want to spin the motor up and see if the oil pressure... Well, no, you don't want to baby something that may actually have an oil pressure issue. You just want it to fucking happen and write it off.
Yeah, I've had a handful of these, like, because we do a bunch of these swaps at the shop, too. And I've had a handful of them that, like, will not prime. And...
Until they run.
No.
Not at all.
Even when they're running, like...
Interesting.
We're talking, like, brand new pickup, brand new O-ring, brand new oil pump.
Yeah.
I even built a purge tank where we can pressurize the entire oiling system with oil.
Yeah.
And it still
I've seen a bunch of people build them.
Yeah,
they get the Harbor Freight spare air, and they put the fittings on, and they put a... like an on-off valve, they fill it. I mean, what's neat is if the engine's dry and you know it holds 6 quarts, you put 6 quarts into the canister, close it, pressurize it, 50 pounds into it, and then...
Yeah.
But yeah.
I built a 3-quart one with a little sight glass and stuff, but it
just dumps it in.
Yep, same thing. And even that, it still wouldn't prime. Like, I had to put 12 quarts in it, tip it on its nose, and crank to get... And now it's fine. We dumped it back out, standard level. I have no idea. No clue.
It had to be completely submerged. The oil pump or something.
Yeah,
Maybe that's one of those things where they pack it. Because I almost never check it. Like, a bunch of them I've started and they'll clatter their brains and 30 seconds quiet down. Yeah. Once they've sat. I've bought ones that sat in a shipping container for like 2 years.
This particular one wouldn't even flow. Forget about build pressure.
Huh. Yeah, I often wonder, like, do they need to have, like, the oil pump packed or something? But 99.9% of them, I fire and they don't make a damn sound. And they have beautiful oil pressure for a long time. It's very... but I always tell people I'm that guy. Like, I know I roll an 11 out of 10 a lot of times. And I know I'm that person. Yeah. So that's why I always say to people, like, this is what I do. Good luck. Because I have friends... you have awful luck with stuff like that?
I'm the guy who gets dipped in shit, comes out smelling like roses.
Oh, okay. So you have good luck, too.
But I still get dipped in shit.
But you still... So it still happens, the up and down. Yeah. Okay, so it's constant up and down swing. Because I have friends, like, if it'll go wrong, it will.
Yeah. So this is something I learned. This is science now. If you clean the engine block and paint it pretty, it will blow up.
I say that to people all the time. That's why the one's filthy. And I'm like, oh, I'm so happy this motor's filthy. It had, like, an inch of grime near the timing cover. I'm like, yes. I opened it, and everything is black with, like, oil stain from not being changed. Then you take the timing chain off, and it has, like, a beautiful machined lip around the teeth from, like, where the oil couldn't sit and just stagnant and stick.
Did you see the recent episode of What Just Happened to Me, like, a week and a half ago with blowing the motor up and stuff?
No. Is it on where?
It'd be on my social, on Vague Industries, Facebook or Instagram.
Oh. No, I mean, I saw that you hurt the motor. I saw you bent the rods.
Yeah, all 8 of them.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I've done that too. And I've bent only one bank. And not the other bank.
That's interesting.
That was on my Colorado when I was like leaning on it and learning.
I believe it's Colorado.
Colorado. COLLYRADOOEE. But yeah, I did similar where I bent a whole bank.
So I had stayed up for this Netflix show for like, I've been trying to prep the truck for Netflix for like 9 days. Every day I got 2.5 to 3.5 hours of sleep. And then the last day I was up for a full day working on the truck in New Hampshire, and they forced me to tow it down on a trailer, which really like burned my ass because I've never towed that thing anywhere. Yeah. But so we towed it down. I ran out of time. Like I was counting the hours. It was sitting on the dyno. Do you know?
Perfect for drama.
Right.
We're at the deadline.
Yeah.
You ever watch Sound Man?
No.
Dave Bernard or Doug Bernard's. The deadline, like he screams about it all the time. There's no deadline, but he's just fucking. It's manufactured deadline drama.
You know Derek Lavin with Calculated Chaos? Well, we were on his dyno up in New Hampshire, and he has like a 9-to-5 job, and I'm just counting hours. I'm like, I'm not gonna make this.
Yeah.
So we yanked it off the dyno, threw it on the trailer, and then I just drove straight through the night. Up all day, drove all night to North Carolina to Mount Airy at Tick Performance.
Yeah, I saw you were at Tick.
Yeah, so we threw it on the dyno at Tick's place, and about noon, we made the first pull. It made 800 wheel at 5,700 RPM.
Lots of boost.
A whole lot of boost. 8 degrees timing.
Lots of Rodney.
Yeah, and it was crazy because we weren't expecting any of that.
Yeah. So you were like, yay, and then you're like, oh no, I think I heard it.
Well, so it didn't hurt it. And so now we're fighting the wastegates because I put bigger springs in there because I had 4-pound springs.
Oh, okay.
So
that first check was way too high.
Oh, yeah. Way too high. Like, it never plateaued. It made up to
60-degree incline at 40% throttle. Yeah. I always joke about that when people bring me stuff to tune, and I go, what spring do you have in? And they go, spring? And I'm like, oh, shit. Because over the last 2 years, Verennis, I think, has started separating them or told China to please separate them because to save on shipping and containment and simplifying, they ship with 3 springs. They put all 3 in the gate now.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh.
So people are like,
that.
I just put it on. And I'm like, you didn't open it? And they're like, no. Because a couple times I've rolled into people's cars. I'm just like, and I roll in and lift, and it's like, the map line is like this on the data log. And it has no sign of edging. It's just boom until I lift. And I'm like, okay, I wanted to be at 14, maybe as a maximum. We already crested 18. Yeah.
So this was eBay junk, and I just ordered springs separately, so like that's my problem. But I ordered 14-pound springs. I stuffed them in. It made 27 with no sign of plateauing. And so I took it apart. I cut the springs down. We put the springs back in.
Cut the springs down.
We put it back.
Same. I have like a box of 60 springs though, so I've never had to. And then classically, what I do when someone has no idea what they want to do, I'll be like in VS gates and a lot of other gates that are China and they come with doubles or triples. There's one that's like this. It's like 3 pounds. And you can go bink. You can do one hand to coil bind. Yeah. There's another one that's stiffer. Usually it's 7, and there's another one that's harder, and that's 10. But some of them used to ship, and you're like, they have like a valve spring.
Yeah, that's kind of what this one was.
But I'm like, I'll tell people put in like the lightest shit ever, and I link people to it on Amazon all the time. It is a high resolution, low pressure regulator. So it takes it's 0 to 15, and it comes with a gauge, and it's only like $20. Huh. And you turn it like 3 turns to get a pound.
Huh.
So you hook that up. Once the car makes 3 pounds and you're happy, you hook it up to shop air, and you can just put a pound on the top, a pound on the top, 5, 10, 15, right. Upwards of 30, because it's on the gauge. And by the time you're at 30 on top, you either max the turbo or, something else.
So we made a couple of pulls trying to fight the wastegate pressure, and after I cut the springs out and put it back in, we did a pull, 9 pounds. Like,
oh, nice.
That's
good
perfect.
Middle road, yeah.
That's perfect, right where we wanted to be, because we're doing pump gas, just 93. I've got a air-to-water intercooler in between my Holly High Ram.
Who is it? Is it Shearer?
Tick.
Tick has their own too? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
It's pretty nice. It's really nice.
Didn't even know that.
So, the Holly High Ram with the air-to-water, we didn't even turn the pump on because we didn't expect to make a boatload of boost. And one of the pulls we made 850 wheel, and when we brought it back down to 9 pounds, we're like, 500 wheel, that's way less exciting. Because after we just made 8, and then so now we need to put the boost controller back in because we pulled it completely out.
What are you guys using, a ball and spring or something?
Yeah,
manual. Yeah. No, they work great.
So
depending on which one you get.
Yeah, well. I just sort of guessed. And I put it back in, he did another pull, 25 pounds, and we bent the rods. Pushed water.
Damn.
Yeah. So
I did see the result of that, obviously, and then I saw that you asked people to come help, and then I saw that 5, 6 people came and who you had never met helped you rebuild the engine all night.
Yeah, those dudes showed up straight out of work, stayed up all night with me, I'd never met them. They'd never met each other. And we rebuilt the engine and got it running in time for me to drive to the film shoot location, and made it there 1 minute early. And those dudes went right back to work in the same clothes they were in yesterday. Like, badasses.
That's cool.
And they were thanking me for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Like,
and you're like, that's not how this works. That's
Yeah.
not how any of this works.
right, okay, so this is one more good thing on this story is, so now I'm on day 3 of absolutely zero sleep. Because I drove straight through the night to get the tick, blew it up, and then worked all night rebuilding the engine. And now I'm at the film shoot location, and I need to look fresh. And I had like a week and a half of essentially no sleep prior to that.
Do like a whore bath? You ever hear of that?
No, tell me.
You like
Show me.
You go into like a bathroom and you wet towelettes and like
yeah,
you wash your body odor centers, which is underarms and your groin.
I'm so
and
down
then
that.
you spray yourself with whatever cologne or Febreze and then that's called a whore bath.
When you live on the road, that happens.
Just wash your smelliest parts to avoid awful stench and infections and call it a day.
So
other people call it Burning Man.
So we were doing some car-to-car stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They got their camera van with the back hatch open, the side door open.
Of course.
And they've got
very grand tour.
Yeah, $80,000 cameras hanging out the
red.
Out the side. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I always get so nervous when I see one of those in person. I'm like, I can't go near this human being.
Yeah.
I can't afford to replace that with my life.
No kidding. So they're like, do a flyby. So I do a flyby. They're like, do it again, a little faster. I'm like, F it. And I crushed it. I'm like, yeah. And I lost control, and I smash into the camera car at like 50 miles an hour. We end up in the median. I totaled the camera car. It went away on a wrecker.
Oh my God.
And I felt like...
I didn't see any of this posted.
Yeah. No, you didn't. So, you heard it here first. So,
man.
I felt this tall.
Yeah.
I felt like the jerk of the world. And I still feel that way. So I effed up the truck pretty good. I wrecked the splitter again, which is...
I did see you posted, you're like, I hit something and wrecked my splitter.
Yeah.
So it was the camera car.
I hit the pace car.
I want you to hit the fucking pace car.
I want you to be perfect.
You know, I never saw that movie for the longest time, and my friends would say lines from that, and I would be clueless, and they would just ignore me. They're like, I can't believe you haven't seen that. I'm not even going to tell you what movie it is. You're dumb for not knowing. Like, I'm going to let you live in ignorance and let other people laugh at you. And then the one day I just finally saw it, and I was like, oh, like every line from like all the funny shit. I just thought it was funny shit my friends said. No, it turns out they're not that creative. It's all lines from that fucking movie that are incredible, yeah. Anyway, if you guys haven't seen Days of Thunder, watch it today. Watch it after this. Stop watching this. Pause this. Watch Days of Thunder and then come back.
If you look at a picture of Tom Cruise smiling, you notice that one of his teeth, his front teeth, is directly in the center of his face, and you'll never unsee it.
Huh. Interesting. Huh. That's nice. I enjoy flaws on people. So I'll have to look at that. Yeah, that's crazy. So that's like the last thing you did was do some filming down there, hit the pace car, and now you're here. Because we were going to film this a week ago or 2 weeks ago or something.
Yeah, and I sort of got stranded in Florida a little bit.
Yeah, I was like, whatever, dude. Cool.
So I did actually 2 days ago. I was down in Savannah, and we did a little bit of street racing.
Oh, nice.
Because I didn't actually...
For another TV show, or
so
possibly, or
I filmed it for my own show. For,
okay.
Sort of a self-film thing for the Amazon thing. And the premise of this one is turning the Hilux into a drag race truck, and then teaching me how to drag race.
Oh, okay.
So I went down and I found, Dean Moslow. He's got one of those like 90s Nissan 300Zs.
Okay,
whatever.
yeah. 300ZX, twin turbo nightmare.
Yep. Yeah, and this thing is like world record stupid fast.
Oh, cool.
So he ran, I think he did like 8.2 in the quarter.
Still Nissan powered?
Yep.
Okay.
8.2 in the quarter and blew up at the 1,000 foot and coasted through the traps at like 94 miles an hour. So it was going to be real fast.
Yeah.
So he knows what he's talking about. So he's my tech guy down there. We threw one of those draggy, units.
Yes.
You seen those?
I have a funny story about those, so keep going.
So we threw one of those in the cars, and that way there we had quantifiable results. We're gonna.
I'll quick say that they're almost exactly accurate.
Yeah.
Because I was at GTR World Cup and the guys racing on the track had them on their cars because T1 was selling them at a discount.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, I think 20 of the people were using them. And what's funny is a lot of people might not understand. At the track, there's timing cards in the center, and there's lights, and it measures your speed of how fast you travel between the lights. So it's not your actual speed.
Right.
But what's funny is the draggy was within like a tenth and a mile an hour of the paper slips. So you have to assume that the error you're maybe seeing is actually more accurate because the draggy is a 10 hertz, which means it does 10 samples a second.
You're so smart.
10 hertz means there's 10 sample points per second.
Yeah.
The track is really only using 8 sample points.
Right.
So
it's probably more accurate than the track.
Yeah, I mean, as long as there's enough satellites and everything else is...
Think of the people that are going to be contesting because of your new information.
Well, yeah. I mean, maybe they'll sell some draggies. But yeah, go. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, so... we just use that for quantifiable results.
I trust it.
Yeah, because it seems trustworthy. Like we lowered the tire pressure, changed the valving in the shocks, added some weight in the back, played with the two-step because I'm just launching off the foot brake.
It's still stock ECU, right?
Yep.
Okay. You're using like an MSD two-step?
Yeah.
Not a fan, but you gotta do what you gotta do.
It's working.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and the truck went from 100% totally undrivable to I could drive this thing and have a lot of fun with it and actually go race.
Nice. I mean, I did see when you posted about that too. You're like making it into a drag truck, and I saw you guys are doing like just rear suspension and everything. Because before it was just to be driving, and then you're like.
Yeah, the goal. You should have seen the spring perches that were on it when I left the barn. Like they were scary.
The fucking barn.
I had pieces of square tubing that were like way not straight, just glued on there and stacked AutoZone blocks to drop it.
Was that before you had knowledge of? Were you always working at Vague and you still were doing off road and shocks?
So I own Vague.
Yeah.
And that was not before. It was just. I had no care. I just had to get out of the barn.
That's what I was going to say.
I just had to leave. Like,
is it before you learned, or is it just because, like, I need to get this done?
Because I didn't care.
Yeah.
And it was like, even back then, it sort of started to, everything I do to it, I'm trying to make it a little nicer. Like, every time I touch something, I'm trying to, like, fix the hackery. But, like, my whole downpipe and crossover pipe, when it was single turboed, this 18-year-old kid that became friends of mine, Miguel, my Mexican friend, he...
At the barn?
At the barn, yeah.
People are going to start on Sloppy, they're going to be saying the barn.
He used to come over...
Meme factory.
He used to come over every day after school and like help and do whatever he could because he wanted to learn.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, weld my downpipe together. Weld the crossover pipe together. Really? You'd let me do that? And he's like, what if it's probably not going to be nice? I'm like, I don't care if it's nice. That's not the point.
Pretty ain't fast is what I always say to people. I love throwing that in people's face. They're like, look at my nice job. I say, well, pretty ain't fast.
Get under their skin pretty good.
The barn.
The barn.
Coming soon. I'm posting that on Sloppy right now. Yeah, so that's crazy. All of it's crazy, obviously. It seems like you're having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, and that, like, it doesn't seem to have an end.
That's another reason why not to do an insane job right away, right?
Right. Yeah,
so you can't continue. Well, part of it is like if you had something really nice, you would try to be much more careful. Or I see what happens with when people have something that's too nice and something happens is they want to quit on it. They're like, well, it was nice.
Right.
It's kind of similar. Did you ever see the show with Eric Bana? Banner? What's his name? Eric Bana? He's an Australian actor, and he had this Ford Falcon, and it was a huge heap of shit for like a really long time, and he became a giant movie actor and made millions of dollars, and at some point, he used to work on the car himself with his friends and race it and never had problems, and when he had tons and tons of dollars, he dropped it off somewhere, and they did like full-on insanity mode, like...
Is that a red car?
I think they did paint it red at the end, and... beautiful cage, dry sump in the trunk, bladdered fuel cell, built giant old Ford engine in it, so like you know it's expensive as fuck because it's old Ford, and like completely like cantilever suspension, all sorts of absolute craziness. And then the first time he takes it out to do like Bathurst or like one of their long off-road out-road racings, he crashes it into trees.
I did see that. I don't
mean,
remember it very well, but I do remember.
And it was like Jay Leno and Dr. Phil were interviewing him about it. They had parts in the movie, and the one guy, it was Dr. Phil or it was Jay or both of them, were like, if you had put in the time on your own car, you wouldn't have crashed it. They just like were very blunt with them. Because they're like, so you had no issues and you took care of it because you put in the time and you were concerned with and someone else created a vehicle for you and you went out and fucking whacked it into a wall because you didn't have the sweat into it.
So 4 days ago, I was filming with Monster Transmission. We were doing a little promo video, and I was out drifting around in their parking lot, and I just tail slapped their gate like on purpose, like
just tagged it, like out front here. I can show you. That's the gate opening for Mescal Glass is supposed to be like a car big. It's not. If you've seen now, it's like 18-wheeler could go into it sideways because of people wrecking around. You see that corner. It looks fairly... I mean, there's a truck. There's like 3 trucking companies up here. A rental place, a Penske, a place that delivers produce. And I'm on the Dyno, and it's like slightly wet, and the guys are locking up the trailer all the way through the fucking stop sign up here. And there's no stop in the other direction. And people, like, it's a weird angle. It's like a 60-degree angle, and then you have to turn more. So people, like... Sometimes, like, the one night, I was tuning someone's car the one night, and 2 kids with Civics were, like, trying to pass each other on this road, past Copperhead Grill, and they both hit each other and both lock up their tires through the fucking intersection, plow over the stop sign for the other direction, through the fence, and then they curse at each other, and they're yelling and shit, and then they get back in their cars and they leave. Presumably they both don't have insurance, so they both didn't want to hang out and fist fight and while the cops were there. So then fucking cops show up and they come rolling up and they're asking me like all sorts of... Because they've been here a few times.
I can imagine.
But there's almost nothing they can do because we own this part of the road. It's a weird situation. Okay. Normally business would be on a public road, but this is a private road. The state does not own any of this. Right. So we are allowed to do... within reason, whatever the fuck we want.
Yeah. There's noise ordinances and stuff they can...
Not really, no. Really? Not because this is all industrial. So even though there's like apartment building, my friends used to live in these apartments, and there's Harry's Allentown, the scrapyard, and then miles after that there's apartments. So a mile back here, there's a scrapyard, and then miles past that there's apartments. And sometimes I would bring stuff here. I don't really tune stuff at night anymore because I have a young kid, but... I would be like, blah, fucking midnight, and people would be like, I get text messages like, trying to go to bed, what the fuck is that? Sounds cool and all, can't sleep. I'm like, well, it's Allentown, aren't you used to fucking gunshots and people yelling and other crazy shit? And they're like, oh yeah, I guess I'll go to bed now. But yeah, anyway, same thing. This is my brain, I go on tangents, I'm sorry. You can shut me down at any time. No, it's probably better if you do at some point. But yeah, you talk about hitting a fence, and I'm like, yeah, check out. Actually, because people will pull in there, and I'm like, hey, watch when you pull out, because they'll have a slick. Because there's the caved off, the cleaved, the large post for where the fence used to close. It's there still, and if you hit it wrong on like a slick, you're going to just blow a fist-sized hole in your fucking tire.
That's funny.
Yeah, I guess we'll do some questions quick.
Sure.
Might as well. I don't know how long. Do I have a timer on there? I probably have to bump it. But it doesn't really matter how long. What's his name out there? He's excited. This guy just says, have me on the show, I guess. Because I said, I'm going to have you on the show. And he just goes, have me on. Okay. Boosted Lifestyle. I don't know who that is. Boosted Lifestyle. We'd have to look at his videos, but whatever. This guy says, can you be on once you stop setting the Mustang on fire? Oh, interesting. Controversial, even. I guess he burns his car a lot? I don't know. I'm a fan of Cletus and Taylor Ray. Maybe I mentioned, like, who should I have on the show? Because people are just suggesting who should be on the show. This guy says, please do individual microphones. Well, I actually ordered some. Didn't get anything in time for this.
I think I have some in the truck.
No, but this will, in a closed room, this is going to be really good. It has really good mics, especially in a small room. The only mistake I made was that Evans, he was completely rebuilding his whole shop. So we could be outside with like forklifts and trucks and people cutting and drilling, or in that giant empty cavernous room.
Right.
Or we could have like put the camera on the dash and sat in a truck or something, which maybe would have been.
You have to have a wide angle on there.
Anyway, this guy says, yeah, same thing. I'm looking forward to this. I don't know what I don't know, and that is why I listened. Well, yeah, we've had plenty of stories so far already, so I think a lot of it was like, what do you do and what is going on? Because other people are like, you're living the life. At least you posted that thing I saw last night or the night before. You're like, I'm sleeping in my truck. It's 17 degrees. It's not always a series of ups and downs, like you said.
Oh my goodness.
That was the shit.
Yeah, people don't understand that. Like, they see me posting a picture of like me on the beach, or like, what they don't understand is I'm broke down and I'm stuck there.
Yeah.
Or there's a 10-mile walk and it happens to be on sand.
Yeah.
Like, it's not...
I'm just enjoying this moment because everything else isn't going well.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Most people see it as I'm on vacation. And with even my people that are close to me still don't really get it unless they come out on one of these trips with me and they realize
how much work it was.
You have to bust your ass, and it is non-stop. Like, you can't do
That's why not
3,000 miles
doing
in
it.
4 days and do it casually. Like,
Yeah, it's hard.
yeah.
Like my buddy Chris always says when he makes fun of people who say this saying, must be nice.
Oh my goodness. So, a few years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, my buddy and I, we quit our jobs, built a school bus, toured the country for half a year. And like, nice school bus. Like, there was 16 grand worth of materials on the interior of the
Oh,
bus.
nice. So it was like a house.
Yeah.
The house bus. I've
House
seen
bus.
people do that. Where they
Super,
put like
super
the
nice.
love seat and everything in it.
Yeah.
Carpet.
Yep. Back 9 feet were black and white checker tile floors for 3 motorcycles, and it was...
Oh, that's cool.
It was rad. So we quit our jobs and toured the country. Well, what we got a lot of was, oh wow, you're so lucky to be able to do that, and you know, good.
Like you had saved up $380,000 and just decided to quit for a while.
So
Instead of like maybe shit like you said, showering in a rain gutter in
right,
Texas.
right. So like
To be able to do that, so there were sacrifices.
and at first, like yeah, we're really lucky and this is a lot of fun. But then we heard it so often that we were like, you know what? Screw you, because no, this is not luck. This is hard work and sacrifice, and we rearranged our entire lives to make this
Yeah.
happen. This isn't
Must be
luck.
nice. People think just shit just happens. That's
Yeah.
why I always make fun of people for like when they're like, I am like a huge drill sergeant. Like you would, if you don't like to get stuff done, you would never want me at your house because I do everything by myself.
Right.
Mostly. I mean, every now and then I've had someone help me like put a rear end in a car or something. And there's very few people I can tolerate working with because I work at such like a crazy pace,
Right.
and I get frustrated when people are in my way.
Right.
So people are like, oh, you know, people have this like, people would say it in my videos and it would trigger me immediately.
Triggered.
Dude, there's stuff, and I have no problem telling people that stuff triggers me. I think it's funny, but I'm like, I know, like I try to say to people all the time, I have no illusions of who I am. I know who I am. Like, I know I'm a hammer. I have no finesse. I know.
You know what's real funny? That's actually my nickname.
Hammer?
The Hammer.
Yeah, that's because I tell people stuff like that. They're like,
Yeah.
why don't you just do it nice for once? I'm like, I am fucking incapable of doing it nice. So this is how I do it. And I have come to terms with it a long time ago. I know who I am. I know what it takes for me to get stuff done. But yeah, people would say stuff on my videos. They had said it like, I remember it now because people had said it so often. Like I would do the same thing, like work 18 hours straight, replace rods, put everything back in, have it running, and they'd be like, oh, I wonder how much pizza and beer that took. I'm like, no, pizza and beer are for people that fuck around and
Right.
talk about something instead of working on it.
When you're busting your ass, you forget to
And
eat.
there's like my wife will be like, I mean now we're together, but she'll call me at the dyno. Did you eat?
Right.
And I'll be like, not yet. And she'll be like, what the fuck?
Right.
You need to eat.
Right.
She's like, you've been gone from this period to this period. Did you drink any water? And I'm like,
Right. That
no.
I get exactly the same thing all the time. Like, but you know, I was up for 3 days. I'm like, I don't know what I ate.
I have no fucking clue. I can't remember that stuff. I was too busy working on stuff. I get very focused, and then it has to get done. And then, but I say to people, and then I'm like, people say stuff like, oh, it must be your girlfriend or your wife or something. I don't have time to do that or whatever. I'm like, here's your problem. When you're allowed time to work on your stuff, you neglect it and you drink pizza, drink
pizza and eat beer.
and your wife sees you doing that. That's why she doesn't let you work on your fucking car, because your car is an excuse to be a piece of shit. Right. If you actually got
you know how many people
done,
you just triggered right now?
Yeah, I know. They're like, fuck you. That's not me. That's not. It totally is you. I'm sorry. That's the issue. The issue is not that your wife hates cars. She hates that you're using the excuse to like leave your family to do something retarded, like drink some beers and eat some pizza. She's like, I wish he would actually get something done, you know. And you're like, oh, she's so naggy. No, she probably just wants you to be a better version of yourself, which you can't seem to find under any respect.
Thank you, Dr. Happel. Thank you.
Are you all cut down and triggered enough yet? People get mad because I say the truth. Truth hurts. Anyway, we'll stop on that. NH represent. Vague Industries is near me. Matt, will you ever do anything cool with a Vortec 4200? Apparently they take boost really well. I'd love to see a no BS sloppy style build on one of these. Someone already commented for him. It's funny, the sloppy community is so ridiculous. Because I don't do anything that caters to anybody. So the people that watch it have genuine interest. 80% of them probably. So I love when someone joins and they're kind of clueless and maybe they don't know. Maybe I need to once a month make a video that's like, this is how you do some more research, and this is how search works on Google, and this is how. Yeah. But part of it's not their fault. Maybe it's their first time on the video, and I always have to like look back at myself and be like, am I being an ambassador for what I do? Because sometimes I like to shoot people down. I know it's my problem. I grew up with 3 sisters. And I bulldoze conversations, and I'll interrupt, and I'll take over, and if no one stops me. And so if someone asks a question, I'm like, your question's shitty, your goals, you don't have any, you don't know what you're doing, blah, blah, you know, and like I start to dive into that, and part of me is like, is that tough love, or is that being a total douche? Yeah. And most people are like...
It's all subjective, really.
Yeah. So I'm like, so that's why I answer... One person, like, I'll jump on Sloppy one day and people are being annoying fucks, and I'll just start banning people. I'll be like, hey, I'll be like, comment below if you want to get banned. And people are like, who are me? And I'm like, ban. And then
they're surprised.
Yeah, and then they're like, what the fuck? You know, like stuff like that. I'll just be like tired that it's not more informational. But that's what, if people don't know, there's the regular page, the private page, and then there's the public page, which is like the fucking meme blender. So we try to be lax on there so people can get their fucking outlet and be hopefully more creative and productive on the other page. But yeah, I ask that stuff all the time. But this guy might not know. I posted a video that's Studebaker before your video. Yeah. That has a Vortec 4200. I have been interested in them in years. I do product research and development and bass tunes, and I work with EFI Source that builds a MS3 Gold Box. They're right over here in Boyertown, like 40 minutes away. And years ago, I was like, that motor's cool. If I put one on an engine stand, do you want to give me a Gold Box and a wiring harness, and I'll make it work, and I'll give all the info away? Right. And he's like, yes. Right. He was on board 4 or 5 years ago. So it's cool that Calvin slammed one together and was like, would you have interest in tuning it? So I'm like, I have extreme interest in tuning this. I will push people around and move people's tunes to get you in when you're available because I'm interested in that. Right. And it is cool to see it, and what's neat is, I think that's... Jesus Christ. That guy's so loud. He's always loud. He's a great guy.
He's WWF in there.
He does. He says, brother! That's exactly what he sounds like. Are you ready? But what's cool about that is there's a lot of misconceptions, I think, on that, and a lot of what I learned about hot rodding all on my own, and I did everything on my own, and I think I have like a neat perspective because I learned how to tune on my own, I learned how to build cars on my own, so I never learned anything bad or good. I just learned what works and applied it over time. And what's neat is I told people the same stuff that works for me, and it seems to work for them, and that has been expanding obviously into what it is now. So I'm like, I must be doing something right because I can teach other people to do stuff right, even if it's not.
You're providing enough value for free that you've developed this like subculture with this extreme emotional connection to your like immediate like it's like all hail Matt.
It is. You know? It's for sure its own thing. It's scary
like a cult.
Sometimes.
Like you go into it saving $15, getting the free haircut. You know.
Yeah, and then you have a shirt, and then you're making fun of people with MSD boxes, and you're assuming if someone backfires their carburetor, you don't wonder what happened. You know what happened. You're ready to talk shit on a poor guy who has no clue who you are. But yeah.
So I have a a couple things. So I replaced the word luck with fortunate.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, that's really what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And what you were saying about if you didn't do the work, so you didn't appreciate it, and you wrecked the car.
Yeah.
Also comes back to something else you said about who you are and what you can do, and that's how you do it.
It's important to know to not be lying to yourself.
Right. Like, so
if you can't tune a car, you should probably seek out someone that can help you with that. Just know your faults
like,
and your strengths.
Know when it's okay, when it's not, and like when I was building that truck. One thing that pickup truck taught me was that getting it done is far more important than getting it done right and pretty.
Yeah, I tell people all the time.
So much more important.
That's why I've even heard other YouTubers saying it. Not that they have to credit me, but I've heard people say it exactly the way I say it. Buy the most complete engine for your money.
Yes.
Because that gets you
every time
so far ahead. And like I tell people about, they're so concerned about, whenever I tune a car, someone's like, I need that bass tune. I need that bass tune. Like, are you going to post that tune? I'm like, I don't think you guys understand. I post this every time. 90% of these vehicles are somewhat of a combination of what I already have, and I load a tune, and then I make small tweaks. Right. So I don't need to load 75 tunes that are all within 12% of each other in areas.
Right. Yeah.
Getting it running, like people are like, I need to get the better turbo. Like a turbo comes out, like the Billet 7875, and people are like, I'm going to buy that. And then now tomorrow something better comes out. Then they sell that stuff, and then this shit isn't even running.
Right.
Like, there's not even, like, it reminds me of a SEMA build. The engine is
never-ending moving target.
There's no wiring, and and I'm like, make that shit run, because like a cam and springs is a weekend.
Yep.
Even if you're not inclined at all.
100%.
It's 2 hours if you're, like, for me, it's one of those things you learn to not care, and you learn to be quick about it because it doesn't matter. But and then a turbo kit is like a weekend thing. Once it's running and driving.
That, I completely agree. And I think that pickup truck sitting outside is a perfect example of that, because it's way far from done. And I put 28,000 miles on it. I've had the time of my life in that truck.
Yeah, that's what I tell people.
And that truck has, this is part of sort of my mission is, so I've got a personal goal of becoming a billionaire, but one who positively affects the lives of over 1 billion people.
Oh, okay.
So not necessarily financially, I don't give a shit about money.
Yeah,
but
neither do I, obviously.
Yeah, but that pickup truck is on that path, like does exactly that.
Uh-huh.
Like, it shows people that it doesn't need to be perfect to have the time of your life.
Nope.
Like, just get it done and go drive it. Like, you and your buddies do the best that you can, but just finish it. Like,
I say stuff all the time. I say, do your best, even if it's total shit. I won't call the cops. I say shit like that all the time. I'm like, I'm not going to call the police. I'm not going to call you out on the internet.
Because you can go back in. How many times that truck has been rebuilt in the past year? Like, a lot.
True. You're like, I have to get this in because I need to drive to here. So, yeah.
Yeah, 11 transmissions and like 7, 8, 9 motors or whatever in the past year and a half. That truck's been apart a lot. I've been able to touch everything a lot of times. Like, there's always going to be plenty of opportunity to dive back in and make something a little nicer, a little neater, a little cleaner, and by the time you get it done the first time, you're going to be better at what you did, the first time, so you can dive back in and do a better job on the second time.
And I tell people, another statement I say is first motor's free.
Yeah.
I'm like, I wish, because I say to people, I'm like, just put the fucking cam in or do the stock stuff or whatever. At some point, you're going to wish the cam and springs were in anyway, and sometimes it's a pain in the ass to do it while it's in the car. So if you have the Junkyard engine out, you're like, cam springs. And especially like the Sloppy Stage 2 and the springs on an eBay 20% off day is $300 flat shipped to your house.
Right.
Absurd. Right. That kind of stuff has never been that cheap for a brand new cam anyway and stuff like that. And then the results are retarded on it too. But like, just get that thing in and get it done. Revisiting is always way easier once it's running. But people are so caught up in like, I need this, or I need the giant injectors, or I need whatever. I'm like, no, put the whole thing in stock and just get it running.
Get injectors later.
And then first motor's free is like, people are like, oh, I need to do trunnion, I need to do this, I need to do cam bearings, I need to do this, I need to make I need to clean the entire engine, I need to hot tank it. Chances are, like, you just had an issue with your boost controller and stuff, that's what's going to hurt your first motor. Not anything you do inside, so don't fucking waste all your time and money fixing stuff that, because for a lot of people it's their first swing and they just don't have that knowledge and they're nervous and then they don't finish it. Or they're afraid it's going to break. So the funny thing is if you have a $200 engine that has nothing done, and you make a mistake and break that.
You don't care.
People all the time when a lot of times I would push engines until stuff would break purposely, and that was my mission. And people would jump in the middle of the Colorado build or the Fairmonts or any one of the Fairmonts and be like, why don't you just build the goddamn engine? And I'm like, here's the problem with that. If I did something that broke this, not because the part is bad, I will break a $3,000 to $9,000 engine and not learn anything other than how to make my wallet lighter.
Right.
And that's what people aren't getting. And I'm like, that's the majority of the learning curve for you is going to be stupid shit.
Right.
So don't do it with a huge expense behind it.
Yeah. Getting it done and driving the car, even if it's not painted, it's in primer, it's wire ties.
Stuff like that
whatever.
comes here all the time, and I like to think that I drove those people to finish it by beating the fucking drum.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter, guys. It doesn't matter. I had a guy here the other day that he popped his engine and trans in his other car, and it just hasn't run forever. And he started watching the videos and stuff, and just bought a trans and a converter from somebody for like $200, put another engine in it, and I think I said to you, it didn't even run. And I'm like, how did you even get this to a point where it blew? Because it doesn't even start.
Yep.
I put a good base in it, I drove it onto the dyno, I backed it up on, hit it in high, and high was obviously having issues, and we checked fluid, couldn't tell how much fluid was in it because it was a low car where the whole fucking thing is pink. It doesn't matter. So I'm like, how much do you have? And he's like, 4 quarts. We dumped 2 in, and it's still doing it. And I'm like, I feel better if you just
but at
it.
That point, the car's done. It needs a transmission.
But here's the thing: he needed to do a cage and a bunch of other stuff, and the car is kind of rough. But he had no way to move it without fucking pushing it. Right. And I'm like, you're good. You can drive that. But he's like, I did a burnout at home in first and second gear off the limiter. Thanks. It's so much fun. Blah blah blah. Here, hey, I got the car home. Did a massive burnout before pulling into the garage to yank the trans. I have a rebuild guy already lined up, so hopefully it's not too long. And I think he's giving me links to some other stuff I can share with people. But he just did it. Boom. Now he wants to finish it. It's that much closer to just getting done. But yeah, people get too scared to do stuff. People all the time are like, is this okay? And I'm like, why don't you just do it and see if it's
what's funny? That statement, people get scared to do stuff. That I've been saying this for a few years now, that because I'm a guy who just does it.
I do too.
And
that's how I learned.
Right. So people live vicariously through people who do. There's doers, and then there's not doers. I'm sure there's a better word for it, but they all ask me, how do you do that? How do you...
you know who says it a lot, and I like how she says it, and I started saying it to my wife, because it's female roots. Now she says it all the time, I don't say it at all anymore. Ronda Rousey.
Okay.
She would always say, don't be a DNB. Do nothing, bitch. Don't be a woman that just...
That's pretty good, yeah.
Lets a man provide for you. It's a whole feminist thing, too, but I'm those people are just DNBs. They just have no interest in...
Yep.
Doing any research, doing it themselves, learning, they're so scared to make a mistake that they won't do anything good.
Yeah, and there's nothing that I can only speak for myself, but there's nothing that I'm doing that the majority of people can't do themselves.
Yeah, obvious. That's why I like to show everything that I do. I'm in there jamming a cam in dry, and people are like, for 40 years, hot rodders have told me you can't do that, and I'm like, why?
Right.
I don't have a problem. This engine was run for 200,000 miles. There's plenty of oil in everything. Right. This cam it's not rusted. There was oil on it at some point. You do understand that these LS engines, they need to have a decent amount of. They need to start before oil pressure is 0 for a couple seconds every time. Yep. So there's nothing you're gonna do the motor when your truck sits for 2 weeks.
Right, it's dry.
It's dry. And you start it all the time. Yeah, it's fucking dry every time you start it, So there's, it's hard to explain, and they're like, you sound dumb. You sound dumb. And I'm like, you sound dumb to not think that all of that fucking oil is in the pan. Right. You're not going to go out there and fucking plug a thing in. That's why, engine builders are always like, yeah, priming it. Yeah, prime. Like you said, you had issues priming it. That's a whole
that's a different story.
Thing you learned. Yeah, but for I said, 9 times out of 10, you guys are just gonna start that bitch, and you're never.
It's gonna clack for a second sometimes until the lifters pump
Usually,
up.
if the lifters are totally dry, you know how you get oil in there? Fire it up, hold it at 2,000 RPM. People are always shutting them off and stuff. Fucking wing that thing. Just, you want to get oil pressure in there? Hold that bitch at $3,000. A lot of times, we used to have a pole like that guy, and we used to start them, the Junkyard motors, and just go straight to the rev limiter with no turbo. And my one friend would be like, if it doesn't let go for those 10 seconds on the limiter on the first startup, it ain't gonna blow.
That's
good.
true.
It's a good motor.
Also break it in the way you're going to use it.
Yeah. So like he was no coolant, no nothing. Nothing's hooked up. Limiter. Okay, nothing's coming out. It's fine. Hook it up. Because you don't want to get 2-3 miles down the road and then fucking have something dumb happen. But yeah. Anyway, what's the high-tech redneck barnyard barn is this year's? Not even joking.
Wait, this already happened? The barn's already a thing?
I didn't even check that thread yet. I posted that stupid thing. What is the biggest and smallest car you've worked on or owned? As a giant Asian, 6'4", 350.
That is a
big
large
man.
Asian.
Asian people usually don't come that size. What is the smallest car you buy willing to own? I own 2 Geo Metros and I loved it. Mine is a Honda S660 that's a no-go. English is not this man's first language.
Yeah.
I'm looking into mini trucks, key trucks. Those are awesome. Or vans, key trucks and vans. I really wanted a Honda key truck for the memes, but no importer will bring in the 2000 plus models that have more cabin space. Normal imports are like no 25 years or older. Got guys selling used 18s in Texas that are off-road only, but are legal to use on road as farm equipment in most of the Midwest. Jeez.
So like, this Hilux I've got is basically a marketing tool, and as soon as all that juice is squeezed out of that lemon, I'm going to build something wilder. And because it's actually not likely that I'm going to follow through with this particular build, I'll tell you about it. I had most of the stuff lined up to do this build, and some of it fell through, but I was going to take one of those Japanese key trucks, and I was going to drop it on its face. I was going to do C6 rear end, and then put the bell housing right on the trans, so mid-engine.
Yeah.
T56.
It's like a coupler.
Yeah.
Like one of those things. You ever see the 4-cylinder, like a 4G63 rear engine dragster?
No.
It has a coupler.
Yeah.
Literally, like, I've seen actually 2 or 3 of them now, and one of them was actually tuned at my buddy's old dyno that he moved to Kentucky. But there's like a coupler that actually it's a slide coupler. So you put it in, you slide it open, and then set the set screws.
That's funny.
Yeah, there's no drive shaft.
Yeah, no, not quite like that. But I wanted to do power adder 6-liter. On the T56 transaxle with the C6 rear suspension, and then
no torque tube,
and then matching front, and super wide, massive tires, big IndyCar wing down in front, and then like a massive wing up top, and then drive it across the country and blow it up at Hoonigan.
That would be cool to go to them. But yeah, he says, what's the smallest car you've owned and worked on? Or what is the smallest car you're willing to buy or own? It's all pretty much the same question, I guess.
Yeah, so I am looking right now at a Suzuki SJ20, and we're going to put that body on a turbo Razor and drive it across the country.
Razor. I saw people doing that because Razors are obviously illegal, but I saw people putting Volkswagen Bug hats on them and registering it as a Bug.
They fit really
good. And there's
good.
almost nothing they can do about it,
Yep.
because obviously that's safer than a Bug.
Yeah.
And a Bug was never meant to go fast, so the Razor doesn't go fast. It's like such a loophole.
Yeah.
I just saw something, I don't know who it was, but I saw one of those the other day where someone had one pulled over.
Yep.
Obviously a Razor front end, but it has like a hood and a cap.
Yeah. I've seen 3 or 4 of them. I've seen one with a new Bug body on it.
I didn't know it was a thing, and I was like, oh, people are probably abusing this really bad.
I'm about to really abuse it, because we're going to try
What a great
to hammer
idea,
one.
though.
We're going to try to hammer one across the country. We're really going to test the duty cycle on those wheel bearings and CVs.
I'm a fan of the whole looks are secondary to function aspect of this truck with its 80s road race flares and massive tires. Have you considered making it really handle and stop well? I'd love to see a competitive rusty truck in the ultimate street car challenge.
You know, it's funny. I was just down at 3 Pedals down in Sterling. They do manual transmission swap kits for B bodies and G bodies, and even getting into Mustangs and stuff. He did the ultimate street car shootout in his Pontiac Paristine wagon. It's a Caprice wagon.
Oh yeah.
He's got an LS3 in it, T56, and we were sort of talking about running the Hilux in that, because it honestly does handle super, super good. that Crown Vic suspension.
Yeah,
it's
they say that those are incredible. The Panther body.
It's got great camber gain in it. It's 3 turns lock to lock, 45-degree steering. Massive brakes for a 5,000-pound car, much less you put those in a 2,700-pound pickup. It's coilover in the back with decent panhard height. Like it's a weapon.
It's a good contender.
Yeah.
So yeah, you probably will.
Yeah. At some point, we're looking at going to grid life, so we'll see. I feel like I will be the limiting factor there in road race. If this was like drifting or racing on the dirt, I really have a chance. But I'm not that fast on pavement.
I've never done any road course stuff. I have a lot of friends that do, but yeah, I've never done any. This guy says, I'm interested this guy says, how do I get in touch with you to line up a time to come get my Turbo Silverado tuned? And I almost don't like giving it out, but sloppymechanics@gmail.com.
Oh no.
People can email that and we can try to work something out, but don't expect anything replies anytime soon. That's like at my leisure. I go through the emails there and reply to people, but that's how I set up tuning stuff. I'm interested to learn more about the 480E 4-wheel drive to 2-wheel drive super shorty tail housing that he makes.
Oh yeah.
Make a super shorty tail.
So it's a 4-wheel drive trans. The problem with those is, so it's a 4-wheel drive trans that obviously has a short output shaft.
Yeah.
And there's, at least in my area, 4-wheel drive trans are way easier to find than 2-wheel drives because it's snow.
Yeah.
But this is just a $200 little billet thing with a seal and stuff on it, and it doesn't have the other speed sensor in it. So like, you can put the 2-wheel drive one on the main shaft, but that defeats the whole purpose of like trying to do like a cheap
swap for a truck.
A cheap swap
through a computer. Yeah.
It's great if you actually need a short transmission because you got to pull it apart, put the reluctor ring on the shaft. But if if you're looking to do like a cheap conversion 4-wheel drive to 2-wheel drive, that's not the answer. It's but they're pretty neat.
Yeah, just put the stock output shaft and tail housing on.
Right.
Is what I've always seen people do.
Yeah. I mean, if you need a super short 4L80, that's the only way to do it.
Yeah. Whatever happened to the pushrod length issues you had with F5? Honestly, I just quit on that. The aluminum engine in that thing was like cursed. I tried like 5 separate things. I put different cams in it. I did 3 different turbos, and it just would not make the power I thought it should. And it was like an LC9, a DOD engine, and I don't like DOD engines anymore. I don't want to touch them.
You just cursed.
I don't like to touch them because they have like low tension rings and some other stuff. And then some people, I've never totally confirmed this, but people are saying like a VVT engine, which is what an LC9 is, they have a retarded crank.
Huh?
So your cam timing is off if you dot to dot everything. Because what happens is it retards or advances the cam.
It advances.
It is offset heavily from factory. So in case something happens, it defaults to an offset. So when you start the truck and it runs well, it zeroes itself out.
Huh. I didn't
so
realize
if you retro everything and put it on like a gold box or a Holly or something,
but it's the crank,
it's
not like timing gears.
Yeah, the crank is actually like the pin is here, but everything's. It's like when they grind a cam and they offset it.
Yeah.
So everything's dot to dot, so you don't have to offset it custom, but it has a custom cut in it. So then there's like a whole mathematical issue there with if everything's off a slight bit, it's actually a lot. But it kind of makes sense because at some point I just fucking gave up. And I was like, I'm just going to put an iron 6-liter, and I got for like $600 that almost completely melted to the ground. The intake I looked for buying the burn engines because everyone's afraid of them.
Yep.
I've scraped the fucking intake out of the intake ports, popped the plastic out, put it in. I put it in on low boost, I made like 640. I'm like, oh, now there's no issues with this at all.
Right.
So I just gave up on it. I was like, I'm not afraid to, like, I was like, this is taking way too much time, so I'm just going to quit.
Huh, that's interesting that the crank is... I didn't
People were saying that towards the end when I gave up, and I'm like, I don't have an exact answer for you, and I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert, but I tried a bunch of shit, and none of it worked at all, and it was just eating up too much time and money. I put a simple engine in, and it had no issues, so here's our answer. But anyway, excited about this. I've went back and rewatched all your old episodes of all my other radio show stuff. What are some of the most iconic places you have taken the truck? Hilux.
Well, most well known, I guess, is we went to the Hoonigan garage for daily transmission, smashed it against shipping containers.
Doing woolies.
It's been, we took it to like all the Route 66 stops, Vegas, under the Vegas sign. One of my favorite things that I've done in that truck. It's not even like a big crazy thing. It's not something like outlandish, but it was literally like 2 seconds of my life was one of the favorite things I ever did in that truck. I was driving down LA, like Long Beach, and down this main strip with all these beautiful palm trees and these exotics and like G-Wagons and like all these fancy ass cars, and I'm doing 40-mile-an-hour rolling burnouts, setting car alarms off. It was the coolest thing ever.
That's iconic, yeah.
It was right out of a movie.
Air filters on turbos, discuss. Totally, especially if you're running a cheap turbo.
I will not run a filter on there, and I'll tell everybody why. It's a marketing tactic.
Huh. Because people get so wound up about it.
People get super when you
obviously people have seen my builds. I almost never run one.
Yeah, but do you run it out like this and do 30,000 miles across the country?
I mean, I've never driven that far, but yeah, I drove it to the track and everything else. Yeah, I built a turbo truck at 2500 that I did super cheap, and I put the turbo out the hood for no reason. It obviously would have fit under, but I thought it'd be cool because a lot of the stuff I build, I want people to mess with me sometimes, and no one really will. Yeah. So I'm like, I'll build this truck and I'll put the turbo out the fucking hood and the fender dump out in front of the passenger mirror. Yeah. And it's like they're spinning and everything's retarded. And I took it to. There's a cruise week down in Ocean City, Maryland, and it was a monsoon on the way down. It rained fucking unbelievably and flooded everything while we were there. And it was a complete monsoon the whole time. And I just drove it and it ate rain and snow and everything the whole time. Yep. Because people are like, and it was funny because the compressor nut was visibly extremely rusted. Yeah. And I'd be like making choo-choo noises, doing a block and a half. There's one video of me doing a block and a half burnout through fucking intersections and shit because these show car guys wouldn't do it. Yeah, it's when you give somebody implied authority, they feel that they need to comment on it. Good, bad, indifferent, they're feeding the social algorithm, which then is rewarded, and next thing you know, you're viral because you didn't run filters. Yeah, people are like, look at this asshole. Yeah. What's your favorite pizza topping?
Pineapple.
That's good.
It is pineapple.
That's a big trigger word right there.
It's triggered.
Please keep doing this. You have a gift in the automotive world. I would love to see you able to expand what you do. Well, it has been expanding for a long time, but thank you for the kind words. It's on its way up. It doesn't stop. All I do is post what I want, and it keeps growing, which is cool. At least people don't want to be like super.
Yeah, but you know what? You're authentic, and I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, that's what I would say. Is because I see people with lots of subscribers, and they don't even have the amount of views that I do.
Yeah, well, so, that's what I was saying earlier about how you've got this. There's a deep emotional connection because you document, you don't create. And
if I have problems, I show it too. Even though, like I said, I say to people, I have good luck, so a lot of times you're going to see stuff go well for me. But also, I always say, like, me and a couple of my friends don't always believe that. I believe that I'm lucky a lot of times, but I also believe in making your own luck. Yep. Being positive and not self-sabotaging and knowing, again, what your strengths and weaknesses are. And like you said too, you know what you're good at, so you're not going to try to do something and fail and get all moody about it and just quit or something. You're going to be like, well, I'm awful at this, so I'm just going to do what I can, and if it fails, who gives a shit?
Yeah, and if you fail, you knew that there was a pretty high likelihood that you were going to fail.
I have a similar setup to the G48 using a 5.3 and a Phi-Tech. What timing should I run out the curve on 90? Does that mean it's a blower, or is it all motor? Or I'm just going to assume it's all motor and you have a 5.3. I mean, in my opinion, you're going to want to be conservative to start. You're going to put like 12 degrees at 2,000 RPM when it's wide open and 22 up top. And if it's on straight 93 and everything is working well, you may be able to get 26 in it up top. But really, technically, no more than that. That's my opinion. You don't want to overtime it down low and just make no extra power and beat up your bearings. But that's it for those questions. What I love them stopping the turbo with their finger. Oh, was that so? I missed that. Was that something you did?
So that was when I was at the donut garage in LA.
Pinch it?
No, so I had a 4.8 in there with a super low idle and journal bearing turbo, and
Oh, you wanted to get oil to it.
And
I do it on fresh turbo starts all the time.
No, it wouldn't actually spin at idle.
Oh, okay.
So it would just
stock cam.
Stop. It would just stop.
Was it stock camshaft?
Yeah.
Yeah. All the time people bring me cars and they're like, it's fucked up, and I'm like, stock cam has like no exhaust pulses.
So that was my favorite thing, and I was really bummed when the 6-liter spun the 2 turbos.
Spun the shit out of it.
Because like I loved when people hated that it didn't spin because they don't understand how it works.
Yeah.
And
on a fresh build with an expensive turbo, I have my friends start because no one else will do it. I just shove my fingers in there and hold it still.
Yep.
Just to make sure that it gets a decent amount of oil before we zing the shit out of it.
Yep.
And then every now and then I have people with a fresh turbo on the dyno and they're concerned that the turbo isn't spinning that great. And I'm like, well, first couple times I wing this bitch 7K, it's going to wear in or wear out. Usually by the end of that, it's spinning very good.
Right.
Pounding the shit out of it anyway. Josh is a good dude, lives the roadkill lifestyle for sure. Looking forward to the show. It's so funny, like, a lot of the questions weren't really questions. They're just like, I just want to hear what you guys have to say.
Right.
I'm like, well, ask a question, dude. Well, you threw away your opportunity here. Ask him who ran over his camera. Someone ran over your camera recently?
Oh, Maxwell at Tick Performance.
Oh, he ran over one of your cameras?
He ran out. We're going to just shoot a couple of burnouts and stuff, and he ran out to go get gas, and he comes flying back in and is like, I don't even know what it is, a Zuzu Trooper or something.
He's e-braking it and shit.
And I had a camera set up on a little monopod.
To do a flyby?
And it was like in the grass, and for whatever reason, he turns off of the road, turns into the grass, and just creams the camera.
He's like, oh, I never do this, but I want to be out of the way. Smash.
Yeah. I've never driven in the grass. I think I'm going to do it right now.
I'd like to know the deal with the cowboy hat.
Marketing tactic. Like, you're never going to forget me because I'm the tall, goofy-looking motherfucker with the cowboy hat.
Yeah. What did I said somewhere, someone said similar about the cowboy hat, and I said, when I see you, I imagine the silhouette of George and the man in the big yellow hat. Because you're like skinny dude with the big hat.
Yeah.
And like anytime I see Curious George, like I just picture that dude with the fucking hat. Ask him why he likes milk so much. I went to Dunkin' before this, and I'm like, hey, would you like anything from Dunkin' Donuts? And he goes, a chocolate glazed donut and a whole milk or something like that. And I thought he was trolling me because I didn't know you could get a thing of whole milk at Dunkin'. And I roll in and I asked the woman if I could I'm like, my friend wants whole milk. Can I get that? And she looked at me like I was fucking idiot. And I'm like, so everyone's trolling me. And she's like, no, it's over in the... I'm like, why didn't you just say that?
You could have said yes. Yes was the answer to
that. Yes, it's in the refrigerator behind you. It's an easy answer, but no one went that route today.
So, like, I got a super high metabolism, right? Skinny guy. I got to get in as much nutrients as I can, and that's baby cow growth formula.
I understand.
So, like...
It helps out.
Yeah.
I have a friend who has a tragic but similar condition where he has cystic fibrosis, and he has to eat like 6,000 calories in a day to maintain weight.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, no, I actually just like milk.
So he does similar where people are always like, oh, you shouldn't eat that trash, and he's like...
Yeah. Yeah, no, for me, it's just I like milk. That's all.
Yeah, some people do.
Yeah. Some people really hate it.
John Martin, I sent a pic with no shirt on. Ask him about the van future mural.
Okay.
These are people you know, obviously.
Yeah. So
all my friends are dicks, you said right under this. And it got 15 likes. So these are all your friends making dickhead comments. I appreciate this.
Do you want to hear about my van?
Sure.
All right. So I got an extended wheelbase high top Express, and I wanted to paint it all up all fancy because now I got a van. I got to live van life. And
hashtag
so
van life.
My buddy and I were like, oh dude, what are you gonna paint on it? And just sort of off the hip I spit a couple of things out. I was like, well,
a mural of whatever name of the show.
Yeah, I was like, well, maybe I can have like, I can have the rolling hills, and we can have a herd of horses jumping over the fence, and then it can be like it can fade into. It can be like a half night scene and half day scene. The night scene can be like.
It would be ultimate is like giant wolf family because the wolf people are really fucking weird.
No, like, and then there's gonna be a spaceman floating in space with the tube coming off his helmet, and then the sun.
The spaceman.
Yeah, the sun can be like the fiery gates of hell with a big rig smashing through it, and a skeleton chopper riding next to him with a ghost Indian riding a horse and an eagle soaring next to him, and then between the two could be like a twister with a wizard coming out of it, holding a dream catcher.
It's like every mural for an 80s van.
Yeah, and holding the dream catcher with extra long fingernails.
Tony Reiners is going to be super excited about this.
So on the wizard with the long fingernails holding the dream catcher coming out of the twister, we were like, wait a minute.
You haven't thought of this before.
It could be anybody, or it could be like a regular wizard. Who's it going to be? I was like, my dad. The wizard's going to be my dad. My dad's name's Mongo. And
the wizard name.
So I was like,
does he also have a beard?
It's gonna be Mongo. And then so we like laughed about this for a second, and then I realized it hit me. I'm like, oh my god, I have a whole other side of my van.
Oh man.
So then I decided that like it's gonna be, instead of half day, half night, it's gonna be like half like Arctic tundra and then fade into like barren desert. And then there would be like, and then it would like fade up and out into the black and green matrix grid.
This is creatively giving me anxiety. There's too much going on.
And then there would be a centaur, which is like half horse, half man, but it's man, like dangerously low man, you know? And then we're like, well, who's going to be the centaur? My dad. Mongo is going to be all over my rape van. And then I remembered that in my original plan, I'm going to have a herd of horses jumping over. They can all be centaurs, and they can be all of my friends in high resolution on the side of my van. So I started requesting my friends send me shirtless images.
Yes, so you can do the centaur. Now it all makes sense. Jesus. Oh my god. Ask him why they call him the hammer. Well, we can assume. Right?
Yeah, because
you have coarse adjustment on everything you do.
No, that's not really why. That's...
Is it phallic symbolism?
Unlike bull.
Yes, that's what I meant. I said phallic symbolism, which is pointing at the groin. Ask him why he keeps painting his engines. Yeah, I know that's bad luck too. I know exactly what that means.
Yeah.
I'd like to know the reason for this too. Good question, caller. Rebel Son or Wheeler Walker Jr.?
Rebel Son.
These are the real questions. Whiskey Dick.
Whiskey Dick's badass music.
Sloppy Radio Show. Do you podcast? I don't podcast. Like I started. People were like, "You should podcast," and I looked into like creating an iTunes account to actually upload podcasts, and it was like way too in depth. There was way too much to do, and I was like, "Fuck that! I'll just upload YouTube videos that are 3 hours long, and people can watch them." You don't have to watch. You don't have to look. I mean, I would prefer. Most people would prefer to not look at us.
No kidding. So audio is passive consumption. You can do that whenever.
Well, people say all the time. Like someone was complaining about I went live the other night accidentally. Like I said, it ended up being 2 hours long, and I'm like, holy shit, it's fucking 2 hours. I'm like, quick, guys. And then someone's like, I don't have time to watch this, and everyone's like, bro, you just put it on while you work on stuff or something.
Right.
And then
so I was in Florida, just north of Tampa, at Monster Transmission, right? And we were doing
this other question. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, I can't read it. So I was just north of Tampa. We were doing some filming, and we were just basically doing burnouts and some drive-bys and whatever, doing a little promo video. And every transmission company and builder I've ever talked to has told me that I'm not allowed to do burnouts in overdrive. Mm-hmm. But
people say the same thing to me. I just never have. Every now and then I'd accidentally be in fourth. I can always tell because if I'd see any of my friends or somebody, and I'd be in like anything I have is almost always 480. So I'll just jump on it and be like, hit high gear, and I'll just like pedal it all the way up the road.
Yeah.
150 mile an hour wheel speed. And times when I see somebody and I'm like, oh fuck that guy, I'm gonna do a burnout in front of him, like it's my friend or whatever.
Yeah.
Hand out the window. Like almost hit him with the tailgate, and I'm like, oh, I hear it go do, and like lock up and forth, and I'm like, ooh,
that's the best.
I lift and I click it back down. But obviously, like, it's fairly unloaded during a burnout, so
right?
It's not the worst. I've done it, many times.
I feel the same way, but everybody's told me I'm not allowed to. So
I can see a bad scenario where you're pedaling it in high and it wants to hook and load really low and bend a rod like.
So I was doing a big long burnout and it went right in the fourth. And then the tires just grenaded like shrapnel. Like I've done thousands of tires.
It only happened once and it destroyed the fender on one of my Fairmonts.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa. Because people are like, doesn't that happen all the time? I'm like, no, I like to not be stuck. So I'll burn them down to the cords and whatever. Yeah. But that one was like, it was screaming and high and it went, you know, and I
was like buckshot.
Yeah, it went all past my ear and everything with the window open. I was like, what the fuck?
There wasn't a piece of tire bigger than this.
Mine was all strings, yeah.
Yeah, this was just...
There's a picture my friend took because he took a picture. It's the one where my wife has the Australian finger out the window with the point.
Okay.
And I'm just doing a burnout down the road. And we were just doing it to be fun the one day. And my friend I went past him and he took a picture where it's all just black rubber and then the sprinkles everywhere. And then what's funny, because the car was driving fine, I'm like, what the fuck, let go?
Right, yeah.
And what happened was it delaminated and I was driving on the tube, the cords.
Yep.
But the whole tread came off. It separated. So I had air and I was driving, but it was all fucking steel shrapnel, like
so this
zip tie length.
Basically, it's the same thing happened to me the other day. I had worn all the tread off of the driver's side tire, but the passenger side tire grenaded, and when the passenger side tire blew up, it like ballooned like a motorcycle tire.
Yeah, that's what my picture is too. I took a picture from the back because it looks like a tube.
Yep, and then I drove it 8 miles. And we live feeded the whole 8 miles because I assumed I was going to blow the tire up and that's good drama. But it actually made it.
Ask him why he jerks off in the mirror. This is why I like almost snorted. Because it was like, podcast, funny jokes. And then it was like straight to jerking off in the mirror.
Bopping the bishop backwards on the commode.
Josh is awesome. He builds insane chassis. That's what I didn't know. I recognize this guy's name, Brent Ackley. I think he posts on Sloppy a lot. I love when he calls out shoddy cage work. I guess that's something you see.
Yeah.
You post it on Instagram or something and be like, look at this.
So I haven't done it. I haven't done it in a while, but I have something on Facebook, a small album called The Shit Pot.
That's where they go.
Yeah, that you must lick the spoon if you stir the shit pot. And like I'm the one stirring the shit pot, so I get it if I get hated on, and I've had some pretty good heat. But they're all photos generally of tube work because that's what they specialize in is chassis, load transferring and proper nodes and all that. And the pictures that I post are anonymous, and they only
it's never to shame people, but it's to let people know what
it's
bad
an
work
educational
is.
Tool.
Yeah.
So they're 100% anonymous, and they only come from reliable sources. Like my inbox is always full of people going, hey, look at this piece of shit, look at that. And I'm not going to put it up because it's not about shaming it. And if I don't know where it came from, like I'm not about trying to start drama. I'm trying to educate people.
Yeah.
But like I was saying earlier with the filter thing on my turbo, if you give somebody an opportunity to have authority over a situation, they might not be able to weld, but they can identify a shitty weld. So it's an engagement tool.
Yeah.
But it's also an opportunity to educate people, because if you get higher engagement on something and the social algorithm rewards that, then you're pushing your education further because you posted a picture of a crappy weld. And it's really just to educate the community and build better quality products. Like, the biggest thing that I try to promote is proper nodes. A node is an intersection where two or more tubes meet. So a tube can only transfer a load in compression and tension. That's it. It can't twist, it can't pull up, it can only compress and be tensile load. So you want to make sure that a proper node means that every one of those tubes, the theoretical center, intersects in the theoretical center. Not off an inch or 2 inches, or they all need to meet that theoretical center.
You're making it inherently weak if you're not.
If it's not hitting directly through there, because it can only transfer compression or tension, so it needs to go directly through the system. So a proper node needs to be supported from a minimum of 3 different planes, 3 different directions. more is better, but it comes to a point where basically every chassis is going to be built out of triangles. If you look at like a trophy truck, which would be like the pinnacle of automotive fabrication, there's like 500 feet of tube and 4 bends. Like, so it's all straight tube, and it's all so that you can not just diffuse a load, but transfer the load properly.
Into other parts of the chassis.
Yeah, it's about transferring it to the
weak
proper
points.
location so that you end up with a torsionally rigid chassis, a
I played this
longitudinally
game
rigid.
called Bridge Builder once, and it shows in temperature map
Cool.
the weight and stress on particular joints.
Right.
So what you want to do is you build a bridge with an allotment of material. You have unlimited, but you have to build it with a certain amount to get first, second, third place on your completed level. And you have to send trucks across once you build the bridge. But yeah, you can see similar thing, like where, you know, if you have two poles on top of each other, obviously it's
Right.
you get a giant red spot. Then if you support it, and it's funny to learn sometimes how what seems simpler is stronger with less parts, because you start off making shit really complex just to get the car across, and then along the way you learn like a way to use a third of the units and hold more weight.
So like that's sort of why, you know, we have an advantage in some of the chassis that we build, is because we build it efficiently. One, it's stronger, and two, it's also lighter by a lot. Because we're transferring loads efficiently instead of just sort of diffusing them throughout the chassis. We're sending the load
promoting flex.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, we're sending the load exactly where it needs to go, not just sort of out and away.
Did he know about the sloppy life before building his Yoda?
I sure did.
Or did he later realize he was born into the sloppy life?
The sloppy life chose me.
Yeah. I made a meme with Bane from Batman that said similar stuff to that.
That's funny. Yeah, I feel like in some ways, because I have such a large reach, like it's not as large as what you have, of course, but you've been doing this a lot longer. I feel in some ways, because I'm traveling the world with this thing, that I'm like some sort of like weird ambassador.
Well, it's like I said to you, there are times where I want to like give someone tough love, and then other times where because people, sometimes they'll post something that's funny, they'll be like, they'll purposely be trolling me just to be funny in hopes that I will realize they're trolling and go, haha. And then I'll give a blatant, serious 2-paragraph answer. And they're like, whoa, I'm just trying to be funny, I'm sorry. And I'm like, I can't tell some days. Like, I just can't tell. I can't tell if you were actually retarded, and I'm like, this person seems retarded, and maybe I should just help. Or if there's some days where it's just broken. My range is just, I can't tell. Because a person will be like, they'll just be like, oh, well, you don't need a wastegate because you have a blow-off valve. And my brain will be like, in a turbo setup, the blow-off valve isn't needed, the wastegate is needed. And they're like, bro, I was kidding. And I'm like, well, someone's going to read that.
Right.
And the person that doesn't ask and doesn't reply is going to read that and think
they're going to blow their shit up.
Yeah. So
because they're actually going to do it.
So, yeah, so far, same thing. I always feel like, I always look back at what I say sometimes, and I'm like, maybe that's why I go back and forth with everything that I do. And then, like, on my radio shows, it ends up being, like, a giant thing where I'm like, I don't want to be your dad, but all you are clueless. Like, stop being so fucking clueless. Like, I don't know how to be nice about it. After a while of that, I have to stop myself, because I'm like, all I'm going to do is make fun of everybody. I get into, like, a bad mood. And I don't know it. I'm just ready to
a terror.
shun
You're just a
everybody.
bulldozer.
Yeah, I just want to be like, you stupid, blah, blah, blah. But this is a picture of your bumper. This guy's a picture. Is it a Tick Performance or something?
Oh, that's my splitter.
Someone has it stuffed on the wall.
Yeah, I'm so sick of wrecking splitters. So, like, most of that truck is digital. So, like, when I wreck a splitter, I just go back to the shop. And
you have the plans.
I hit print, and it cuts it out on the CNC machine, and I glue it back on. But I'm really getting tired of wrecking that splitter.
Why don't you do a door skirt or running board on your wide body mods? Aero or just not done? Curious on the thought process. Hard to get in and out too.
Yeah. So
it's
I am
so wide. It's you have to make like a huge.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly.
I mean, you have the good body type for it.
Massive side steps.
Yeah. So it's like getting out of a. There was a car. You ever get in and out of a Viper?
No.
The point from where you have to step and not burn the fuck out of your leg. Because the exhaust, it's like a 400-degree thing right where your ankle is to get into the seat is more than normal. So you want to slide your leg in and burn yourself every time? It takes a couple times to learn not to do it.
So I plan to do exactly that. So I've
Burn your leg while getting in it.
I've got
touch your exhaust to the side skirts.
I've got hater pipes to go up right now, but that's only because I was in a rush to get to Gulf Shores, Alabama, and I didn't have time to build real exhaust. But it's going to go down, out the bottom of the fenders, and then tip back and run side pipes, and then dump out by the rear tires. Oh, okay. And the point of that is not necessarily to make it quieter or whatever, just so the exhaust comes out behind my face.
Yeah.
Like, it's obnoxious. Like, it's fun to drive around town and, like, maybe go on an hour or two trip, but I did 28,000 miles in it. I'm a man, I proved my point.
It's blowing in your cab the whole time. Are you using a sloppy stage 2 cam? Well, I know with your latest motor you have a tick custom grind.
Yeah, I've got a custom grind tick performance cam called the 3/4 Nate cam, because Nate spec'd out the grinds. It's pretty awesome.
I subscribe to that guy too, Nate at Tick.
Yeah,
because he has that 6-speed shitbox.
Oh yeah,
it's like
that's
a G-body or something.
Oh, what's that car's name? Blanche.
Yeah, it's just like ugly as fuck.
Yeah.
Does he enjoy self-loathing because he seems like a pain in the ass? I know who this is. Oh man. So do you enjoy self-loathing?
Negative.
Oh man. Oh, these are good. The dumbest thing you've ever done in a vehicle?
I broke my friend's back.
Oh.
That was
off-roading?
I didn't do it on purpose.
Oh.
So
yeah.
I used to host exhibition-style motorsports events called the Boulder Bash, and basically we took endurance off-road racing and put it between grandstands, kind of like a tough truck, but also with like 300 foot of automobile-sized boulders, and would race 2 at a time. And if you got stuck on the rock pile, you became an obstacle, you got driven over.
Ah.
So this was in the early days of endurance rock racing, when people didn't really know how to build things that could go fast and rock crawl, so they didn't really jump. And I built a course that had jumps, and I got like 2,500 people standing there at the edge of their seat every time a rock crawler comes up to a jump and then stabs their brakes, and I just let 2,500 people down.
Yeah. Because
I built up this hype and it wasn't happening.
That's gonna be crazy.
So I had got my buddy said, this was a fairly newish car at the time. My buddy's like, hey, I got this like 2000 Cadillac Eldorado. You can have it if you send it. I'm like, okay. And he thought I was kidding, but like he just didn't know me that well.
Oh.
So he actually went and got the car during the event and brought it back, and we duct taped 01 on the door, and I made the big announcement that I was going to go out and do this jump. Well, my MC was like a, I don't know, 350-pound man. And then another buddy of mine jumped in the Cadillac with me. But while I was walking to the Cadillac, one of my friends from the stands said, you better not lift. And I'm like, you got it, buddy. And then so I got in the car and I left the fairgrounds where I was hosting the event to get a running start. And I whip it around and I crush it. And I'm like, I'm not going to lift. I'm like 30 miles an hour, 40 miles an hour. And I'm looking up, looking down. Like, it's a long way from the jump. Like 47 miles an hour. Like, oh shit.
Yeah, I'm
like,
going to be going.
Yeah, and I didn't lift. And we had it 55, 60. And it was a pretty big jump. And it was smooth. I mean, it hurt, but it was plenty smooth. And I hit that jump 3-4 times. And I was just getting ready to hit it in reverse because I was getting excited and out of hand, and the actual fairgrounds came in. They're like, no more. I'm like, I leased this thing. This is my grounds right now. So the next event I did, like 6 months later, a year later or whatever, I've got this like assumption, like this is the type of event we're going to.
Now it's so crazier, yeah.
Yeah, so like I had to find another vehicle to jump, and I had a Ford Explorer, and don't lift because that's kind of my thing. Is never lift, and I was getting in the truck, and then my large buddy, like I said, about 350 pounds, if I had to guess, he starts walking over with me. I'm like, hey, what's up? He goes, oh, I'm getting in. I'm like, are you sure you want to do this? He goes, well, you're doing it. So I'm like, you're an adult, man. You're older than I am. If you want to jump in, go for it. But it's going to be way bigger. This one's going to be way bigger than the last one. So I spun around and I hit that jump, and we went about 70 feet or so. And then when I landed, it bounced back up sideways for another like 20 feet. And I was counter steering on the gas, and I was ready to make another lap, but Ford has that inertia switch.
Killed the fuel pump off, yeah.
Which, thankfully, because I was going to make another lap, and he had a broken back. So, yeah, he ended up with this big turtle suit. And I guess another good one would be, I had a 85 Toyota pickup, two-wheel drive, had a small block in it, like trophy truck cage, chromoly cage. And every single day on the way to work, I had a 150-mile commute every day for like 2 years.
Fuck that.
That's
like 3-4 hours?
Crazy. All I did was drive. And every single day there was a back road that I'd take that if you could get the truck up to 100 miles an hour, there was an 80-foot tabletop you could clear. Every day I did it, twice a day. Well, because I'm now like, I've got freaking flyer miles on this truck, it's like a thing. Now I go look for jumps because I know I can do it. And I was out in West Virginia with it, and there's this road, Withers LaRue, I believe it was, and nasty jumps, big tabletops, and I got a video of it on YouTube somewhere of, you can hear the truck in the background shifting gears. Whoa, whoa,
getting all
whoa. And I hit it at like 90 miles an hour, and I cased it. So it lands, and then it bounces back up, because when it went up, it rode the roll pan. Tires were off the ground. The roll pan rides, and then it like mousetraps like a motorcycle.
Oh.
And when it mousetrapped, it blew the grill and the headlights off it. It broke the motor mounts out of it. The motor smashed the ground. It crushed the exhaust that was under it, and then it crushed the oil pan. But the motor went to slide forward through the radiator because it also broke the trans mount. But it couldn't because the oil pan
stopped it on the steering or whatever, cross member.
It hooked underneath the cross member, and then it also like bent the steering down, so it sandwiched the steering in. I blew the back window out of the truck and screwed up my shifter linkage, but it still ran. And I drove it like 70 miles home. And like I couldn't really turn because the motor's holding the steering. And the only reason I was able to drive it is because the oil pan was hooked underneath the cross member, so the motor couldn't roll. Like
Jesus.
And that was my daily.
Nice. Ask him about zip tie drags. What was it like meeting Freiberger and Finnegan? This is the guy that owns the Studebaker with the Vortec in it.
Oh, cool. So we didn't do zip tie drags. We did
the 3K Hoopty
challenge. 3K Hoopty challenge, which is very similar. That was a really fun experience. The way that show worked is about 80 cars were invited. There was, I think, about 20 per class, something like that. So I guess there was 100 cars invited, about 80 cars showed up. And you weren't guaranteed a spot. You had to show up, and then they looked at your car, and they made fun of everything they could.
And chose a few in
and chose a few cars, which I was kind of like, what the hell about? But once I got there and I realized why they did that.
I was going to say it's probably better that they did that.
It is, because
you have people buy in with stuff that's unsafe.
Yep,
or
stuff that was
or
unsafe. You couldn't actually race it, and some people couldn't even make it because they're hoopties.
Yeah.
So it was actually good that they did.
It's kind of like Drag Week where people register, but then like Mike Finnegan replied to one of my friends recently because they were like, "Oh, I didn't get in," and he's like, "It has sold out, but it has never been registered out. Like once the event happens, registration is never full at the time of racing starting. Right. He's like, just show up, you'll be able to race." So because most people don't get to show up.
Right. So like I basically live Drag Week. Like I beat the hell out of this thing everywhere I go all across the country. So a 1,500 mile jaunt is nothing. I did that like 2 days ago.
Yeah.
But I would really like to do Drag Week. I'd like to do it on somebody else's dime. You know,
Yeah,
like
I say that to people all the time. I'll take like my Kia and just spectate.
Yeah.
Or race and go 16s the whole time. I don't care.
Yeah,
I don't want to go and be miserable my first swing.
Yeah, I don't mind being a brand ambassador for a company I can stand for and go represent them at Drag Week.
Yeah.
But I just,
that would be cool to work with somebody and have like engine oil.
Yeah,
like work for Castrol or Quaker State or some shit.
Anything.
And drive around like just hammer like race their van and hand out oil.
Or wire care.
Yeah.
Or anything, you know? Yeah.
That would be funny.
Yeah. Wear a t-shirt and a sticker. But Finnegan, Freiberger, they're cool dudes. They're busy guys. Like, I feel unbelievably busy.
I had a chance to meet both of them. I went to LS Fest 3 times.
Yep. And
the one year they were I think it was 06, 08, or 12. I can't. My timeline in my head is awful. But they started Drag Week at LS Fest the one year, and that's the one time I was there. And they were, one of them was doing tech also.
Yeah.
And part of me like does not accept. And people are like, "Oh, I like what you do. It's great." I'm like,
right."
I'm getting better at it because I don't want to seem like an unappreciative douche.
Right.
But part of it, like, it's like a weird, like, it makes me like anxious, and I don't understand. I can't take compliments. Or like when people send, like, I'm getting better at like when people send me stuff too. I'm like, "This is awesome, thank you." Because my first reaction is like, I don't know what to do with this. Do I say thanks or what? Do I not use it or?
I didn't bring you anything.
I got you that at least.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, like it's like a fun. I have a weird. My wife will be able to explain this really well, but I have like a funny reaction to stuff like that, and my gut is to be like weird and be people are like, "Oh, you're that guy," because I used to never be in my videos. I liked it. Because people would never know who I was. People would recognize my voice, or I would go places. When I was at LS Fest, people were like, "You're that guy." I'm like, "Who?" And they're like, "You're Selecting Mechanics." And my wife was with me. And I point to Cameron Powers because he lives in Clarksville and he just drove over there. And I go, "No, that's the guy that owns it." And you know what's funny about him? He's going to tell you he doesn't. Go over and say hi. He's gonna do whatever he can to convince you that I do stupid shit. Like, that's the way I deal with, like, that scenario is to be it makes me feel uncomfortable, so I have to take back and
snarky and tactful.
Yeah, it's weird, but that's my gut reaction is to like lie to somebody and fool them into thinking that I'm not even the person, and then point them in the other direction and then run away and spectate. Like, "Oh, I'm so glad I didn't have to have a..." Because it's funny, like a lot of people, I think I'm very introverted, and it's funny because I can speak in front of a crowd, and I'm such a weird introvert. Because I have a YouTube channel that's growing, and I have no problem telling people they're an idiot. Or if someone brings me a nice car and has a misfire, I'm like, "This is a piece of shit." Like, my brain's just like, something's wrong with it, so I just say that.
Yeah.
And they take it as like, "Oh, I have a lot of work into this, and this guy thinks he's..." No, it's not necessarily at all, but like, yeah, so I have weird reactions, so... I always feel like I said a long thing the one day, because someone's like, "Man, I'd love to meet you one day," like in one of my videos, and I did this giant explanation how I'm like... You know when you're a kid and you want to see Disney? You want to go see Mickey Mouse at Disney, and like all day you can't find him. He's running around and you can't get to him. And then eventually you see him sneak into like one of the alleyways at Disney and hide. And you come around the corner and he's sitting there
ripping a line off some dude's boner.
Or I didn't say that because it was too offensive. But I'm like, he's there like he's like not what you all picture. He's got his mask off. He's drinking, and he just looks like a failure of a human being. And I'm like, that's what it's like to meet me in person. And they were like, "I don't know what to do." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm sorry. I answer awkwardly like that about myself. I can't accept compliments, so I hope you enjoyed my story." People are like, "What?"
I'd like to hear... I'm going to give you a scenario, and I want to hear your bench race on it.
Oh, okay.
So my truck, right, 6 liter with a 3/4 Nate cam from TIG Performance. And
do you know the specs on that, roughly?
I don't.
Okay.
Nope.
No problem.
And it's medium size, medium large.
Yeah, okay. For a turbo, it has to be like average all motors cam, or else it's just ineffective or whatever.
So 6 liter, 3/4 Nate cam, 327 gears, weighs 2,700 pounds. Basically doesn't hook, like at all. It doesn't launch hard because I'm off the brake, and I got a pretty tight stall. I can launch at 2,500 RPM.
Okay.
Off the foot brake. But obviously it's all preloaded, and I've got 2 GT45s, so it takes forever to actually spool.
Yeah, they're awful.
Yep.
The compressor is the biggest problem with those. Is it has such an offset. For people that don't know, the inlet is like a 69. The inducer is a 69. The exducer is like a 102. So it has such a weird pattern, and it's a clone of like a really inefficient old diesel turbo. Blah 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 blah. But yeah, they take forever to make full boost, even as a single.
So like, I have no traction problems out of the hole.
Yeah.
But it's 300 feet. Boom. Like.
It just starts pouring off.
Oh my goodness.
You'd have to have some sort of time-based. It'd be neat if you did like a gold box or a Holly or something where you could do, you can do a thing where you can hook up your brake pedal to do anti-lag or like your MSD box or whatever. But the standalone also, you can do it off of like a trans brake or foot brake or any kind of input, and then it'll do. You can do timed retard.
Cool.
Or you can do boost based off of time or by wheel speed. Since it's an 80E, you can do boost based off of wheel speed very easily too. So what would be cool is if you gate it for 9 and it hooks very well on 9 but not on 20, you can tell it to only add that boost at higher mile an hour.
Right.
Pretty cool. But then people run into an issue where if they spin it all, then the speedometer is like 80, and then
and then there's more boost.
But then it doesn't matter anyway. Then you would use a time-based strategy at that point. But yeah.
So those are the specs. I also have 2912 Hoosiers on the back. I think I said 327
I put Mickey
gears.
Pros on that thing.
Well, that's what I have.
It hooked better on the street. The chewing gum tire, the
Yeah.
new one. Yeah, could have like a 315 of those. Holy shit. You'd hook on the street, no problem. A slick is not a really good street tire. In my opinion, needs prep.
Okay.
But it's like the chewing gum Mickey Pro, like you can do nothing to a car and it fucking sticks like 800 wheel. It's disgusting.
So.
What would it run in a quarter?
No. Well, okay. In the eighth. Let's do eighth.
Oh.
So.
If it would leave good? Or if it will go 2.0 like it does? Or
what it is, yeah. 2.0.
What does it make right now, or what does it get?
Okay, so I'm at...
How much power would you have when you make this attempt?
Like 12, 13 pounds of boost.
Okay. 550, 650 wheel?
Ish.
Yeah, 2,700 pounds.
Yeah.
I mean, the gear ratio isn't doing you any favors, but it's not going to do anything bad. Like, you could probably... it depends on how fast you want to go with the car. You just want to gear to get it down the track. Because a lot of people would tell me
Because I raced a bone stock 2017 GTR 2 days ago.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what you think. Because obviously those are all-wheel drive.
Yeah.
You know, traction control.
It depends on... Did you go from a dead stop?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Did he get a bunch of links on you and you got it back?
I'm asking you what you think.
That's what I would think. Because I figure with that kind of weight and like 500, 600 wheel, with a Rockstar launch and 60 foot, and it genuinely, if it makes 600 tire here, it should go at least 140. Because a Fox body, the way it's like... Oh, in the 8th. At least
that tightens the whole thing up again.
Oh, yeah, see...
Because we didn't race quarter, we raced 8th.
Did you spin?
No.
Oh, if you didn't spin at all. Oh, you did a prep street race. Maybe.
Big burnout.
Oh, okay. But yeah, if you didn't spin, it probably went really well, because you never know. Some of those GTR guys don't know how to make them leave well. So they just put them in drive and gas it. Like it's not actually leaving on launch control.
I know when he was launching, he was having plenty of like wheel chatter spin.
Yeah.
So
I would say you beat them easily, because they only make like 460 all wheel. They just use it very well at the track if someone knows what they're doing. Because there's plenty of GTRs that go 1170, just like a Hellcat.
Right.
And then I have a friend who has a Demon that goes 9s, and people are like, that's not possible. And I'm like, it does. He did. Like,
right.
It's not a problem. He's not an idiot.
Right. Yeah. So
but yeah, I would say you easily beat him if you didn't spin, just based off of weight and power alone.
I did.
Because you're like 1,000 pounds lighter and make 100 more horsepower probably.
So I trade him, and so like I got out a little bit, and then he came right back up, never passed me, but then I had 2 lengths on him by the end of the 8th.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you guys probably both.
And it was still, like you said, you were really close to the 2.0. It was 1.95.
1.95.
Yeah.
On a draggy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what did it say? Like a 680 at 110 in the 8th?
7.4 at 1.3.
Well, street, yeah.
Yeah.
103?
Yeah.
I was close on those.
So my fastest pass was 7.4 at like 98 or something like that, because I let out.
Yeah, not terrible at all.
So if I really need to put a trans brake in it, because I could hit hard, and I could do a lot of damage if I had a trans brake. But right now, it's so slow out of the hole. Like,
yeah, just get a bigger converter, big time.
But the thing is, like, it's not a race car. I drive it.
Yeah.
know?
Well, you'd have lock. You could set it to lock up in third and fourth for cruising. Or I always set them up to only lock in fourth. I actually set up my requirements for fourth and lockup extremely low. And if I know, like, if I'm going to be cruising and I don't want it to be like, whoa, 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 I just click fourth. Because then it's set up to lock and go into fourth. Because the issue then is, with a car like that, with a converter and other stuff.
I love how you're just, like, naturally a column shift guy. Like,
yeah, I hook up everything on a column, yeah. That's funny. And then, very few cars I built had TH400s, and those were just... But yeah, I always set them up that... because people are always like... Because you really don't need to be in a higher gear unless you're cruising and you... Like, if you're in traffic and it's going 45, it's annoying as fuck if you're just, like, unlocked in third. Yeah. For no reason, heating your tranny up in traffic. Yeah. So you want to be able to click fourth, lock it, bring the whole fluid temps down. So, like, I always tell people, this is the way I set it up, and you're just probably going to have to learn to like it. Because that's the way this vehicle should be operated. You can do whatever you want, but you're probably going to have outrageous temperatures and not be happy with it going in between third and fourth. And
where I landed was I would just rather it not be as good a race car and be a better street car. So that's why the converter's a little tighter.
Yeah. And a Mickey Pro would be nice, too. It would hook like a beast.
I mean, I'm sure I could hit a little bit harder, closer to $3,000 if I had a trans brake. But I just don't have enough brake to hold the rear tires.
Yeah, there's a bunch of tricks you can do, but just get a big ass converter. Especially 80E is nice because you can just lock it if it's too slippy.
Right.
But yeah, most of the time they're not going to give you... If you say you drive it on the street, it's going to be a 2500. Because I think too many people complained about making converters too loose. So now the companies just don't do it. Like I tell people, if you want a custom converter, there's a bunch of places you can call. But in my opinion, a Circle D is like one of the best because they're on shelf.
Yep.
And they can give you a converter like next day. Because people are always like, oh, I need it now. They never think ahead of time. And then I'll be like, call Chris at Circle D and get a Circle D. But if you want it to be able to leave hard, you have to like threaten him and tell him it's race only. Like I want 4,500 RPM, race only, and then just street drive it anyway. Because if you tell him you street drive it, he's going to make it tighter. Because apparently he's been burned too many times by idiots.
Right.
So that's not, it's everybody's fault. So you need to tell him race only.
When I was down, at Monster, Thor Converters is there. And that's what I'm running in my truck. And we cut the converter open and lifted it a little bit because it was a little bit tight. And it's a lot better now. And it's still a good street converter.
Yeah, I always tell people, if it's a street car, 2,500, 3,000 is really all you're going to need.
Yeah, anyway. I mean, like I said, I really think that if I put it at... I mean, it's probably a 3,200 RPM stall, but it's such a light truck. It's like all of the things that's just where it starts to
There's funny stuff you can do, too. What I've learned is some of those things, the harder you push the gas pedal, the more it wants to multiply torque. There's some instances where a bunch of those converters, people are like, it's too tight, it spins the tires. And what I see when they do it is they stomp. They're expecting it to be like a small block with like an 8-inch converter and just go to 4,500. And I'm like, it's funny, like if you have a turbo car and you press the brake lightly and you go to like 30% throttle, sometimes if you just sit at 30, that thing will go 2,000, 2,500, 2,600, 2,700. It'll keep growing. Like it won't push, and if you stomp to 50%, it'll spin the tires.
Right.
But if you just go brrr and you just hold it at like a quarter or a little bit above,
not making any torque there.
You basically you learn, like you pedal to a point where it always wants to mow tire, and then just hold it below that. And sometimes the bitch will just grow and grow and grow. But
so I'm doing it off the two-step.
Yeah.
So like I've got...
That's always stopping you though, right?
Yeah, so the two-step is always like, I got to set it like 26 or something.
You could turn it off and just see if you can foot brake up past it.
Yeah, well I don't have any gauges.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could still... What you could do is it's OBD2, it's stock computer. There's like a number, like Ultra Gauge is like a $60 thing and you can show 8 things. Those are super nice.
So I got that little, so Carolina Rod Shop gave me one of those little module things, a Bluetooth thing, and I just can't get it to
I hate
connect.
those.
Yeah, it looks like a...
That's why people are always like, oh, get the Bluetooth thing at ELM32 and use the torque
That's what I have.
And I'm like,
that's what I have, and that's why I downloaded
then you have,
it doesn't work.
You're almost always using your phone, so you don't want to use it as your fucking gauge cluster. It's stupid. People always get mad at me. They get triggered when I tell them all that stuff's stupid. They're like, get a tablet dash. I'm like, fuck that. Are you an idiot? Why would you want to do that? But the stupid $60 things that plug and power directly off the port, you key on it, it's there, it works.
Right.
And then what's cool about a lot of those is there's alarms for over temperature, so you don't even have to fucking look at it if you don't want. And then like what's cool about yours or other people's stuff that do like a swap project, you can make sure, I'll make sure the mile an hour is appropriate, obviously, so a lot of them are ADE, so they shift correctly. But then the thing of that is it'll say 73 mile an hour,
Right.
Right away. And you can see battery charge and stupid shit like, oh, my battery isn't charging all. Like every now and then it's nice to look at, and it's only $60 and it plugs right in. And then there's nicer ones than that. Like I bought an Edge CTS2 monitor only for my truck, and it was like a 7-inch color TFT, and it had all sorts of neat gauges. And obviously it's not super fast and extremely nice, but man, it's way better than like a little green screen thing.
Right.
So it was worth $250 for sure. I thought it was really nice. Same thing, warnings, monitoring, multiple dashes. You can set up things, change everything. Anything on the PID list you can choose.
I was at PRI, and it was at the Holly booth.
I want to go to that this year.
Yeah, dude, it's such a good network.
Because I went to SEMA once, and I didn't like it because it was all unfinished bullshit and giant wheels and whatever is popular.
Yeah, PRI is only the good stuff.
Only performance stuff. And I had people invite me, and I had EFI Source and a bunch of other people invite me. But again, we just had a kid, and it was the middle of an awful winter, and I was moving and buying and selling a house, and it was way too crazy. So I would love to go this year, because there's so many people I know that go there. And it's actually cool shit. Stuff I'm interested in.
Yes.
And what's cool is that camshaft company that named the cam after me, they were there. People were like, oh, where's your sloppy stage 2? And they had no clue what sloppy mechanics was. And now they're like, now they put my name in the 100-year catalog. I should have brought one for you. They sent me like a thing of, they sent me two, I have the 8s for 8 build going on.
Yeah.
And they sent me camshafts, valve springs, push rods, like a bunch of stuff I want to test. Obviously I have the bare minimum in like I normally do, but once that's done, I want to test like, people always ask, are push rods necessary? And I'm like, I don't know, I fucking never use them. So it'd be neat. And then the guy agreed with me. He's like, we'd like to see what you find out. Sent me 4 or 5 different kinds of push rods, like coated stock ones, hardened, nitrate, whatever, blah blah blah, thicker wall, a slew of them.
So so back on track.
Yeah, PRI. Yeah. See what I do? I don't even know where I was, so I can't go back.
Well, thank you for.
I hit up the chat, like if it's live, I'll be like, where was I? What was I talking about?
So I was at the Holly booth at PRI. I was talking to Jeremy, which is like their media guy there, and
that's who that guy that asked you the one weird question. He works at Holly.
That's really funny.
Yeah, he's like media management for Holly.
So we were talking about the Holly Dominator setup or something, and they just came out with their big like 12.1 or 12-inch something dash, massive. And he made a really funny joke because this spun from talking about gauges. And they had like the 60-inch TV set up with their little display and stuff, and we were talking about getting one of those dashes to put in the hilux. And what about that one? And we were talking about, he was like, oh, that's our new 60-inch instrument cluster. I thought it was pretty funny.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, I gotta wrap it up. Anyway, I think we're in a good spot to quit, so.
Yeah.
I don't even know how long this went, but that's it. Well, I'll just say.
I'm going to give a social media call out.
Yeah, go ahead, do your thing.
If you want to follow me, you can find me on www.vagueindustries.com. That's VAGUE. We're also on Facebook and Instagram.
That's it. Sweet.